Welcome back to WRPL, the podcast where we talk about all the things we are watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Yep, stretch it out, get the juices, rolled unevenly. Hopefully it's good. Welcome back, Steve.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having
me. We took a little bit of a break. I had a big move, and we had things come up, so we couldn't get this episode out earlier. Should have really put a this means that or something.
Yeah, probably.
But I was tired, and our 27 subscribers.
Ooh.
I think it's 27. We went up one.
Nice.
Thanks to Nick. Someone that follows him on Instagram started following. I don't know if you're listening, guy. Sorry, I don't remember your name, but thanks for subscribing. How was your Thanksgiving, Steve?
It was a standard Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But food was good, so no complaints.
Okay, cool. I just was doing move-in stuff. I didn't celebrate Thanksgiving this year. It was great. I love it. Ever since my cousin bought her house, they do Thanksgiving there, and it's like an hour and a half away. It's like, you know what? I don't like Thanksgiving. It's one of my least favorite holidays. I don't love all the foods. I hate the desserts. Like, Thanksgiving has the worst 2 pies of all pies. So I was fine skipping it.
Yeah, when it comes to Thanksgiving, I've met so many people who are like, oh, Thanksgiving's my favorite. Like, I just love the big meal. It's like, well, you can cook yourself a big meal.
Sure.
Anytime. And like, we've really gotten away from the sort of pilgrim Christopher Columbus celebration of it all. For
Christopher Columbus. It has nothing to do with it.
I know, but people think about it,
that's coming to America.
Yeah.
The lie we
Plymouth
tell.
Rock and all that crap.
Yeah. All the bullshit we said. Oh, they taught us to put fish with our corn and then it made it grow better. Yeah. All that bullshit.
Yeah, so we've gotten kind of rid of that, and the only thing we've kept is the turkey. So, I mean, if you like it, great, but it's just in terms like other fun. Holidays, like actually feel like holidays because they're festive, and it also lands between that spot between Halloween, which everyone loves, and Christmas, which everyone loves, and so it's just like we just got to get through Thanksgiving, and then it's like the second it ends, it's like, well, it's Black Friday and Christmas songs and Mariah Carey nonstop.
And by the time you get done with Thanksgiving, you have like 30 days till Christmas, and then it's like, oh shit, it's here again. Fuck. I didn't prepare, and as soon as Halloween's done, everybody goes into the holiday spirit. So like, I hate Thanksgiving for that. We don't even have just like a time to enjoy fall. It's all Thanksgiving. But some positives that I like about Thanksgiving, you don't have to buy people shit. It's not about that. It's just, hey, let's get together and have a meal. Unfortunately, it's just like a boring meal. Turkey is the worst meat, I think, of the like table meats, the gourmet thing. Like, chicken's better. When you're comparing birds, chicken has way more variety. Pork and beef and everything else is there. You get so much more out of those animals. Turkey, I'd take deli turkey over real turkey any day.
Yeah, I mean, I never really there's so many movies about like Halloween, or I don't know why my voice is doing this. Sorry. Jesus.
Smoking too much, Steve.
Yeah. There's so many movies and television shows where it's like, here's a Halloween episode, here's a Christmas episode, and like Bob's Burgers does Thanksgiving episodes really well, but like no one else really cares.
But they also do Halloween. They also do Christmas,
yes,
Whereas, sure, Simpsons may do a Christmas because everyone does, but you don't get a Thanksgiving every year.
Yeah. But Thanksgiving kind of is, in theory, the nicest holiday in the fact that it isn't about like some big celebration. It isn't about gift exchange. The only requirement really is just that you get together with the people you love and say, I'm glad you're all here, kind of thing. But now it's just a joke of just like, oh, you get together with your family and you all talk politics and yell at each other. It's like, well, that's like, don't do that. Like, that shouldn't be the spirit of this holiday. You can get rid of all the like the history of the holiday, but just to have one day a year where you get together with people that like matter to you and just go like, hey, thanks for being in my life and being around here and sharing a day, even if we see each other once a year or whatever. Like, Thanksgiving could be great, but I think it's just been kind of turned into a joke because we just sandwiched it between the 2 biggest holidays of the year.
Best holidays. So try cilantro.
I did.
How'd you like it?
I didn't.
Yeah. Was it soapy?
I don't think I would have gotten soap had people like not mentioned it. I get where that's coming from, but I didn't find it so soapy. Yeah. It was just kind of tasted like, oh, this is how I expected green to taste like. It's a kale, it's a it's all that crap. It's just like, oh yeah, this is like green flavor or no, leaf flavored
Okay.
crap. Grass tastes good.
Well, I'm glad you had it.
Yeah.
And now I think now that you've had it and you know what that taste is, you'll start recognizing it in
Sure,
other things
sure.
and you go like, oh, that's why I don't like this salad. Oh, that's why I don't like this burrito. It's this fucking thing.
Yeah, so if you're out there and you put cilantro on stuff, don't.
Stop it.
That's just my recommendation.
Bad.
I mean, it can be great for you, but so is
it
other
cures cancer, but I'm not eating that shit.
Yeah.
Another week has gone by, and another tragic loss to childhoods everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Jason David Frank, aka the Green Ranger, aka the White Ranger,
aka I think the Black and Red Ranger in different cameos and such.
Once you get past that original cast and the stuff with Tommy, it's all Greek to me. I don't know anything about the other shows, except one random fact. Not another teen movie. Great
all-time
comedy.
greats, yep.
One of the best parodies. The foreign exchange student who's just always topless.
Mm-hmm.
She was a Yellow Ranger in one of the Power Ranger shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like I think I'm going to kick this kid image of myself, and I'm going to really make it in Hollywood. And can you name anything else she's in? Can you even name her?
Can you name any Power Ranger?
Yes.
Actually, the girl from The Boys was a Power Ranger, I think.
Which one?
Starlight. I'm pretty sure she was
Really?
a Yellow Ranger in her early career.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think I'm right.
Amy Jo Johnson was the Pink Ranger. I think her name was Thai Trang was the Yellow Ranger. Walter Jones was the Black Ranger.
That's not what I
You mean their character names?
I mean with like a career after Power Rangers. Because you can like know the original and be like, oh yeah, because that's like it's like everyone knows the first 150 Pokemon,
Sure, yeah. More or less.
More or less, yeah.
So it's sad. I guess he killed himself. Going through a bad divorce and he hung himself. It's sad. It stinks. So were you a Green Ranger fan or a White Ranger fan?
Both. I was just a Tommy Oliver fan. Like, I always picked the Red Ranger as my favorite because Red's my favorite color. Red was the leader of the team.
Yeah.
Raphael was red, and he was my favorite Ninja Turtle. It's just like there was something about Red, and like the Red was always like the go-to sort of guy, and so like I always appreciated the Red Ranger. But in terms of like coolness, there was no one cooler in the 90s to me than Tommy Oliver, and that Green Ranger costume is so fucking cool. And like even that gold armor bit, like
that's all you needed, and it made it so much better. Everyone looks cooler when you have that on.
Yeah, and it's like looking at it like just on the screen, you can tell it's just like fabric. It looks bad, but it just looks so good on.
And he has a great mask. Like the Red Ranger has a good mask as well because it's the T-Rex, but like Black Ranger doesn't look great. Pink Ranger looks really bad.
The White Ranger's outfit is cool just because it's essentially the Green Ranger outfit, but white. Yeah. But his helmet, back and forth on, like it's got some good stuff there, but it's not my favorite. But yeah, the Green Ranger helmet's like iconic.
Do you remember the flute sound? Do you remember what it is?
Right?
Something like that. Yeah. We tried to binge the whole first couple of seasons, the original crew, before the movie came out, and kind of failed. We did pretty good though.
We got pretty far. We were
blowing through them, but once you see how repetitive they get, it's just
and how nonsensical the stories are and character. It's like it was a show designed for kids that took half of its footage from a Japanese show, so it didn't really try to be good, but still one of my. It was a quintessential show in my childhood. That started my love for action and kung fu and all that stuff. It's it was a great gateway for 90s kids into that realm because everything was about ninjas back then, like Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, Street Sharks maybe.
No, there was that Shaolin Showdown, Jackie Chan Adventures. Like martial arts has always been a cool thing for kids.
Anyone remember Beetleborgs?
Ugh, gross. VR Troopers was better than Beetleborgs. Beetleborgs were for like real little kids, like that stupid Beetlejuice Elvis character.
I don't even remember Beetleborgs. Okay. I just remember there being like kind of cool like Beetle sort of armored Power Ranger suits.
Looked pretty cool. But I liked VR Troopers. because they actually like one had like a sword and they actually stabbed through one of the monsters and it was poking out the back, and I was just like, oh shit, things are getting real. But yeah, that show didn't last very long.
But anyway, long story short, shout out Jason David Frank.
Jason David Frank. Yeah. Three first names for a name. You've ever heard like you're a serial killer if you have that sort of combo? Really? Yeah. First, middle, and last are first names. You're a serial killer.
Look out, Michael B. Jordan. I assume B is his middle name.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's Brandon.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, I think B is his middle name. It's just B.
Just the B.
Yeah.
And the last bit of news, no surprise, Sexiest Man Alive was awarded to Chris Evans.
Of course.
Biggest duh in the universe. No need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Chris Evans, come on the podcast. We love you.
Please. So our main topic is Death Note. Very excited. Been chomping at the bit to talk to Steve about this 37 episode anime. And we'll get all into why and what. But we have a few other things.
Well, not why, but we'll get into L and to N.
You're so fucking good, Steve. We have a couple of movies, a couple of movies, a show, and a game. So I'm gonna start.
Okay.
Since I have a few more than you. I'm sorry, Steve. Walking Dead has come to an end.
Oh my God!
I know you were the biggest fan. You were all about that Daryl Dixon, and what a cool guy. And man,
he just had so many leather vests.
He had one, and he just kept adding to it and changing it.
Oh.
Yeah. But Walking Dead, after 11 seasons, I think it's like 12 or 13 years. You know how things get spaced out and stuff. But
sure.
My God. A whole decade of Walking Dead. Like, if like Carol was 29 years old in that first episode. I don't know her actual age. By the time you get to the end, she's 40. Like, Carl goes from a little boy to an adult through this show in a span of, in-universe months. But it's finally come to a close. Happy, sad, I don't know. I just wanted it to have a purpose by the end. Yeah, like you stuck through all this because this. And I don't quite think they nailed it. It's not as bad of an ending as, say, Lost or other shows that just like don't. I know you love Lost and yeah, but it's not a great ending. It's not worth. I would never suggest Lost because that ending. Like everything that happens in the book, it's really cool and fun and interesting. And for what? And I think Walking Dead kind of has that, except you do have a much bigger cast, which is funny since Lost had a pretty big cast to get invested with people. And there's some really great storylines. And if you're there for the blood and guts, there's plenty of that. Amazing special effects, like some of the best zombies ever. And a lot of variety of zombies too. But by the time you get to the end, it's like, okay, I guess that's fine. But it really just felt like we want more shows. And so here's our teasers. Like they kind of wrap everybody up relatively quick. Like it's still in the thick of it in the last 30 minutes. It was like an hour and a half episode. And you think just like, oh my God, we got to wrap this up. And so they do the big thing at the end. They give everybody quick shots of like, this is what everyone's up to. And then there's like 3 main scenes of, well, here's the Daryl show that's going to be spinoff, and here's the Rick and Michonne show that's spinning off, and here's the Negan and Maggie show. You didn't know about that, did you? Negan and Maggie get to have their own show called Dead City, where they're like at the end of the season, she gets one line of just like, well, now that everything's all hunky-dory, I got to go see what else is out there because there's got to be other stuff out there. And they're going to go to New York City. And it's like, whoa, well, what happened in New York when the zombie apocalypse happened? Which I'm excited for because they don't go to cities enough in the show. It's always fucking the Georgia, fields and rundown factories. I could give 2 shits about the Daryl Dixon show. Like he's not enough of a character to facilitate any interesting story. If he's the person of like, he comes across people, he's this lone wanderer and he's helping people and every episode he's moving on to the next thing without some overarching story, I could kind of be behind that and just him exploring the world. But then they had our two leads who have been gone for like 2 seasons, Rick and Michonne, finally show up, and they're writing letters back to their children in Alexandria. And Rick is just looks haggard. He's missing his shoe, and there's a helicopter chasing after him. And Michonne is wearing this like crazy armor made of leather, and it almost looks like a fencing mask. And she's riding a horse into this huge like desert army of dead, and it's just like, ha ha ha, ooh, look at all this cool stuff that's coming. And like, yeah, okay, that's good enough, but what about everybody else? And everybody gets wrapped up with either like they're in a relationship, they are married and have like a baby on the way or birth, or they're a leader of one of the many communities. And that's about it. There is no like big shocking moments of I can't believe that happened. You know Dan Fogel? That's his Folger?
Fogelman?
No. From Bells of Fury?
Yeah.
Is it Fogelman?
I think it's Fogelman.
I don't think so.
Or maybe. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, well, he's been on the show, and he's been gone for a while. Like, you just haven't seen him. He just shows up in the second last episode with his wife, like, hey, guys, remember us? Oh, and then he dies. It's like they needed to kill someone, but they like, we can't kill this person. All these people are getting a spinoff. Well, what about this character? Oh, yeah, nobody gives a fuck about him. Kill him off, and it's super sad. It's not. But they do kill off one lead, and if you had to make a guess, who would they kill off? I know you probably don't know everybody around, but you know some of the big names.
Well, a character that I imagine people care about, and this is just from you talking to me about it, would probably be Eugene, but the character who you also is just like, I can't believe they lasted this long, is the priest character.
Yeah, Gabriel.
Gabriel, yeah, thank you.
They both survive.
Okay.
Because Gabriel has a kid with Rosita, and Eugene, has always loved Rosita, and he now has a kid with his girlfriend, and so they're like raising their kids together and stuff because they killed off Rosita. I'm sorry. I just had to say it.
Glenn.
Again, they brought him back.
Yeah.
No, they killed Rosita.
Oh, okay,
yeah. She does like we gotta jump from this bus into an open window because the Commonwealth is flooded with zombies, and she loses her grip and falls into a horde, and she's like carrying a baby on her, and I'm like, oh damn, that's fucked up. They just killed her. No, she jumps up with a machete and she fights her way out. I'm like, oh my god, if you're gonna fucking do it, just do it. And she makes it and saves the baby, and everyone's okay. But no, she got bit on the shoulder, and then they do a respectful. She lays her in bed, says her goodbyes to everybody, and of course Eugene's by her side, and I loved you so much. You were my best friend, and I wouldn't have been the man if it weren't for you. And it was really nice, but like I hate Eugene, and everybody I wanted him dead so bad. So it's hard to be sad for a character you don't care about. But the thing that bugs me is like she pulls down her shirt to reveal where she was bit. There's like no blood seeping through the shirt. It's down further than if like it was just an exposed shoulder. Like the zombie pulled her shirt down, bit her on the shoulder, and then put the shirt back up.
He's a respectful zombie.
It's just little stupid things like that. Like, oh, one of them got me in the crowd. You should be able to tell because I should be profusely bleeding. So yeah, they killed Rosita. Everybody else is happy. Ezekiel and I can't remember his name, but the like main guard of the Commonwealth. I know you don't know that character. They're co-running the Commonwealth, and Riverfront's back up and Hilltop's back up, and everything's hunky dory. Like we finally got it. Now that we have this other resource and all these other people, we got it. And they had tried to have a big action scene at the end where it's like all the zombies are coming in the Commonwealth, and it's like multiple city or suburban blocks. They make ice cream here. They have a fucking newspaper. Like it's a legit running city. It's the most advanced that they've ever come across. Well, all the zombies are coming in, and what are we going to do? So their plan is to put all the gas in the sewer, and then since they're all lured into like the most rich area, they just blow the whole fucking thing up. I thought they were going to lure the zombies into the sewer, then light it on fire, and that was that. But no, they just blow up part of the whole fucking town. It's ridiculous. And they do it like in a montage. They're like, oh my god, how are we going to get out of this? Well, this is what we're going to do. And then cut to everybody doing their job. And it's like the zombies are right at their door, but they're doing this thing that would have taken like days to prep. It was really dumb. It's like you had to have one big final hoopla.
Sounds cool.
And one thing that they introduced in the last season was so dumb is like the walkers evolving. And that's stupid because like dead things shouldn't be able to really learn. They're just on autopilot. But I could kind of understand, okay, well, people who've survived this long, now that they're bit, they kind of have like a higher knowledge of what zombies are. And maybe they're able to adapt better. I don't know. But they started climbing walls, which really doesn't. I can understand opening doors, but climbing a wall, they don't have the strength to lift their body up, and they're like scaling these walls. It's so stupid. And at first you think like, oh, the whisperers are back, and that could have been a fun thing, but no, they're just smart zombies. And it's last 8 episodes they really kind of throw it in. Oh, they're evolving. It's dumb.
See, my problem with this is like if you're gonna do these spin-off shows, fine.
Yeah.
But wait a week, wait a month before you announce them.
They announced it just like with Rick's death,
Yeah, I know, but it's just that's it. It's like you don't have any time to sit with like what is. It's just like, well, don't worry, guys, because there's more coming. Well, it's like, well, you just undercut your entire story you were trying to tell.
Yeah.
It's like because it's just like, well, here's the show, and it all matters now because here's the finale. But it doesn't really matter because here's all this other shit that's happened. It's like, well, what was this for? Then this isn't the finale.
No.
This is just side A of...
This is Walking Dead Part B,
Yeah.
Part C, and Part D.
Yeah.
They're just subsets. And the most annoying thing, besides announcing it early, because not everybody follows news, and they just like Walking Dead because they love that Rick Grimes, but the first commercial break was an ad for Dead City. And it shows Maggie and Negan talking about like, this is going to be one hell of a show. It takes us to New York and yada, yada, yada. Like, okay, you just told your audience, these are 2 characters that will survive.
Right.
And then if you knew about Rick and Michonne, they're coming back. So you're waiting for that cameo. Daryl Dixon's getting his own show. Okay. That person's going to survive. So then you expect, okay, they're the main people. They're not going to die. I get it. So they're going to kill off Jerry, and they're going to kill off Aaron, and they're going to kill off all these other more important loved characters. But they don't. They sacrifice Alpha's daughter's arm. She gets bit, and they have to cut it off, but she survives. Like, everybody survives, and everybody kind of gets a happy ending, and I guess that's what they want, but I really like the comic book ending of, they build a statue of Rick. Look, we finally did it, and then you pan out years later, it's all crumbled anyways. No matter how hard you try, the zombies will get in and the zombies will destroy everything you've done. And I know they didn't want to do that because everyone's been invested for 11 fucking years and we're going to end it on a sour note. No, we got to give them the happy ending. So I get it. But it was a little unsatisfying, but there was one thing I think they did really good. They've been pairing Negan and Maggie up for a while now because, she hates him. He killed her husband. But he's like saved her son a few times and he's gone to bat for her. And
gone to bat.
Oh, that's great. But she's always been like, no, you suck, you suck, you suck. And then in one episode, he was kind of put in the same situation. He's on his knees with his pregnant wife. There's a gun to his head, and he, finally comes to the realization like, oh shit, I did that to you. I took your family away. If anybody did that to me, I would move hell and high water to destroy them. So I get it, and I'm sorry, and I've never truly apologized. So he really got a nice apology to say, and she said like, thank you for apologizing. I'm never going to forgive you, but I want to stop hating you. I'm like, okay, that's nice. Now, if they make them hook up in the next show, then they've gone too far because I could totally see that happening, and that's gross. Like, don't do that. So a few nice moments. No one really shines except for that Negan and Maggie scene, but it was all in all. I don't know if it was worth my time, but I'm going to be watching them spinoffs. I still got Fear of the Walking Dead to keep watching, so I might as well just stay invested in the universe.
I hate you so much. I'm done talking about The Walking Dead. Read the comics, people.
Yeah, absolutely. Read the comics. And if you like the comics, watch the show because you're going to get things you like and things you don't like. And
if you read the comics, don't watch the show. I sound like an elitist. I really don't give a shit what you guys do, but I just don't like that show.
I disagree, but one last thing, I think they did a pretty fun job of, they put in some like zombie commercials. There was like a DoorDash one with zombies, and there was a Dead Talk, the Ring doorbell camera with a zombie. Like, Every episode break they had one. And then there was two with Andrea from Walking Dead as a zombie promoting two different companies. One is called MNTN and one is called Dilotti. I don't know what they do, or actually I looked them up and then instantly forgot because it's like business resource management. It's like they don't do anything. They're there to help other businesses. So it's a weird thing to advertise. But she was a zombie in both of them, and they're two different companies, unless they're owned by the same thing. I just found that very weird.
They probably filmed all these in one day, and they were just like, oh shit, the one actress called out. Just bring in Andrea again.
She's in makeup already. Let's go. It's called Dilotti. I don't know what that is. Just sound like you know what you're talking about.
I think it's an ice cream company or something, or gelato.
So that's Walking Dead, and you will not have to listen to me talk about it ever again, because I don't normally tell you about Fear of the Walking Dead unless something like crazy or stupid happens. So,
but the fact that you're going to be watching 3 spin-off shows, you're probably going to let some stuff leak.
Sure, yeah, I gotta let you know, like, what happened to Rick. It's important. So that's all I have to say about Walking Dead. So, Steve,
thank God.
Let's let you talk for a while.
Jesus. All right. Well, I watched a movie called Do Revenge on Netflix, starring, I think her name's Camila Mendes and Maya Hawke from Stranger Things, Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's daughter. And it is a sort of dark comedy about these 2 girls in high school who team up to sort of like take down the people who like made their lives miserable in high school. And it makes a lot of nods to other like teen revenge comedies like Clueless and 10 Things I Hate About You and Cruel Intentions and that kind of thing. Like clearly direct references. Like even Sarah Michelle Gellar shows up. She's the principal of the school.
Okay.
And like there's the Instagram witch is what they call her, and like there's a scene where like her and her friends are like light as a feather,
light as a feather,
stiff as a board. It was
yeah.
just like from the craft and all that kind of stuff.
And childhood, we did that when I was a kid.
Sure. So like that kind of stuff, I think could be fun, but I don't think that's like a big enough genre for people to go like, oh yeah, like that kind of thing. But the movie itself was utterly absurd. I did not care for it. My wife thinks I hated it, and I didn't hate it. Like I was entertained. I see why people would enjoy this, but from like a movie standpoint, it's utterly stupid. I saw the twists coming from a mile away, and like 10 minutes in, I was like, okay, I know how this is going to turn out, sort of in the end. And what drove me insane the most is this is set in some like super rich high school that I guess like most people have to buy their way into, but there's some kids who get on scholarship and like, oh, did you hear that this girl shops at a thrift store? It's because they all wear like these like everyone's wearing like Easter color pastel like greens and pinks and purples, and the dress code is like they all look like the school and all these characters look like they came out of like a Barbie set come to life. Like they just look ridiculous.
And our leads, I'm assuming, are wearing all black.
No. They're not.
Okay.
Like the one girl, Camila Mendes, she's like sort of one of the popular girls in school, and she makes a sex tape for her boyfriend, not with him, but he's just like, oh, like you should send me a video of yourself, and so she like
does her thing,
and of course it gets leaked, and then she's shamed, and she was one of the kids who got in on scholarship, so like she's like poor, so that just makes her relatable, I guess. Okay. But like her outfits throughout this entire movie, I want to write an essay about the clothing of this. I'm not even a fashion guy, but some of the stuff that she wears is just like insane, which I imagine has to be like, it's probably like designer clothes from some LA store or whatever, and they're probably like super expensive, but like she's the poor girl, and it's like they kind of establish like, oh, she got her I guess like rich people who drop off their clothes.
Yeah, you shop at rich people thrift stores, you get the rich people clothes.
Yeah,
just a couple seasons late.
So whatever. So she's like the princessy one, and Maya Hawke's like the I wear my baseball caps backwards kind of girl.
I'm not like other girls. Yeah. I'm a guy.
Yeah. And she goes to school. She just starts at the school, but there's a girl there who's just like I came out to her and she told everybody, and I want to get back at her because she embarrassed me when we went to like camp together and stuff like that. Long story short, spoilers. I'm gonna spoil it for you because I assume you're never gonna watch this movie.
No, probably not.
Yeah. So when Maya Hawke meets Camila Mendez, she tells her the story like, oh, this girl outed me and she goes to your school. It turns out Camila Mendez was actually the girl who started the rumor about her being gay or whatever. But she like, as she got older, she like went to therapy and like got a nose job. And so she looks different than when she was a kid. And it's like, I told you the story of the thing you did and you didn't even remember. And so Maya Hawke's been playing this whole elaborate scheme to like get back at her and all this stuff, and it just seemed like this chick, Maya Hawke came off as like a psycho halfway through,
Okay.
but like the people that she was helping Camila Mendez's character, like get her revenge on, she becomes friends with, kind of,
Okay.
but it is only like, oh well, I had such a good time with you, like scheming against you and coming up with schemes for your revenge, that like you're kind of the best friend I ever had, and they just like kind of become friends at the end because they enjoyed being terrible people with each other.
Okay.
It was just like a real dumb like they were they you find out the twist, and then 10 minutes, like a couple minutes later, it's like, okay, we hate each other, we're gonna screw each other over big time, and then at the end it's just like, well, this boy who like leaked my sex tape, he's a real dick, we'll be friends, I guess. And the boy who like leaked her tape was the nerdy guy from Euphoria, who's the dating the
Oh,
uh,
cat dating cat.
dating cat,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, who she said was boring. It was
Mm-hmm.
just interesting that he was like the hot popular guy in this
That
movie,
is,
but
yeah,
like the dweeb in this show, and he looks exactly the same.
yeah. I mean, you saw him do that play in Euphoria. He's buff,
Oh
so
no,
that's
no, yeah,
enough.
he's a very good looking man. I'm just saying, it was just interesting. Like you don't really see that range. It's like usually you when you're the hot guy and stuff, you're just the hot guy in like everything kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Mm-hmm. Jacob Elordi is the hot guy.
Yeah, which
Who's
I
yeah,
get when compared to him.
yeah.
It's like, okay, he's tall and he's also handsome, and I get why he is like the lead of that show. But it's just funny. It's like, here's this like dorky guy, but it's like now he's just like, oh, like he's the guy every girl at this school wants to sleep with.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about Sex Drive is that like the dorky guy is a normal looking dude and the hot sexy guy is kind of a toad looking guy, but he's just like so charming.
Yeah, so charming, charismatic. Yeah, it's just so dumb, and just watching this like, do like young teens watch this and think like, oh, this is what high school's like, or
Yeah.
this is what high school, and it's
Mhm.
like, and I've looked, and after I watched this, I was like, I gotta look up some like private high schools or whatever, or to see how much these things cost. There's one school in this country that costs like 85 grand a year to go to,
Jeez. And it's just a high school.
and it's just a high school.
That's insane.
But it's like, what makes it that expensive is like each student gets their own personal like counselor
Oh.
to help them with stuff,
Okay.
and there's
Do
like,
they live on campus as well?
I didn't go that deep
Okay.
into it, but it's just like there are certain amenities
Sure.
awarded to the students to like make them excel.
Mhm.
But it's just crazy to me that just like, you can do this for free,
Yeah.
essentially.
No,
But
no,
it's
no, no. We're rich enough. We got to
But-
keep our rich
yeah.
people with rich people.
Uh-huh. And I just can't imagine what that education is like and all that. But anyway, long story short, do revenge. C minus, could have been better. The leads were fun enough, I guess, but the movie was just absurd and just made me roll my eyes a lot.
Oh, well,
So,
speaking of low-rated movies with leads that are good enough, but the movie's not that great, I saw a movie called Run, Sweetheart, Run.
mhm.
And if you recall, this movie was supposed to have a theatrical release. It was previewed before uh, uh, Invisible Man, and that was right as the pandemic was starting. So everything was getting shelved. Everything was going on to streaming eventually, and this took a while, but it finally made it to streaming. So I don't remember the lead actress's name, but she's in a bunch of bad stuff. She's in like the new Resident Evil show. She's the lead of that.
Ugh.
Yeah, she's bad. I'm not that she's bad, but it's bad. No, she is bad in that. It's a bad show, and she's bad in. She's much better in this. And oh fuck, there's one other thing, because she looks so familiar, and I was like, oh yeah, she's just in a bunch of garbage. And then I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name, but Euron Greyjoy from Game of Thrones. He is our second lead, and pretty much she is a secretary for a lawyer. She wants to become a lawyer herself. She's in school. She has a young child who she's separated from the father of the child, and she's just trying to do it. She's trying to do the single mom, move up, and get that good job, but no one's really taking her seriously. Everyone's calling her sweetheart and babe and things like that. Her boss, Coulson from Avengers, I can't remember his name right now. Greg Clark. That's his name.
Okay.
Yep, Greg Clark. It's like, hey, it's my anniversary, and I also have this business meeting. Will you take it? It's with Euron Greyjoy at his big castle mansion of a house. And he's just the dreamiest, She's trying to look nice, but she's maybe a little overdressed because she hasn't bought any new clothes and she got pregnant and she doesn't feel sexy anymore. And he just seems perfect. But she's also on her period, and she ran out of like tampons, and she's like, this chick is a stuck pig. Like, I know people have heavy flows, but that's kind of the whole thing of this movie is she's having her period like the whole time. And like she walks into his house and he's making her a drink, and she looks behind her and there's like blood droplets on the floor. She's just like dripping. And I know that sounds awful, but she literally is. But they think he's an amazing man, and she, may have found someone, and he offers her inside for like one last drink, and they
Bloody
do this.
Marys. Sorry.
Oh, Steve, you're on fire today.
Thank you, sir.
You rolled that 16, and you're just like knocking them out of the park. They do this interesting thing where she's like, okay, one more drink, and he lets her in, and then he turns to the camera and he like waggles his finger like, and shoos it away. And the camera like pans away or backs up. They do it a couple of times. Like he attacks her in a street and he's looking at it like, no. So then the camera focuses on like a homeless woman who's like right there having to listen to this attack, and she's covering her head. And then eventually the camera will whip back to the action after we've glossed over the abuse. And that's kind of what the movie's all about, is just like these men preying on women at all times. It just doesn't matter what situation that you're in, you're always threatened by them. And it is kind of nice that they go, since that's the bigger part of this story, we don't need to dwell on the actual me beating the shit out of this woman. So it turns out he's like a vampire or something, and he's chasing her. He tells her like, "Hey, I'm gonna hunt you for the night, and if you can make it till morning, you get to live. And then I'm gonna like take your child and raise it as my own. If you don't." And so it's an interesting concept right there. Rich white dude, businessman, chasing a young woman through the street, and she's like running across people and like asking for help, and people like to turn a blind eye to people in need. They're hesitant to let her use a phone. They'll make the call themselves. There are good people though, but every time she comes across someone who's willing to help her, they end up fucking dead. But then all the people who look the other way or listen to the bad guy say, walk away, and they all live. It's anybody who steps in and helps her. She gets like all of her friends killed. Her baby daddy is dead. These random girls who like find her in a club and realize she's in danger. She's being hit on by these assholes. And like, oh, hey, Brenda, you want to go? It's time to go. Jeremy brought his car, and they're doing the right thing. And then here comes Euron Greyjoy and just like smashes their car, and just all the women are dead. And they're all like, bright futures and going to college. And it's just over and over and over again.
So is the lesson of this movie like, don't help people. Don't help women. It's like, oh, you see a woman get attacked, just let it happen, because you're going to end up dead.
If it even has a lesson.
What kind of message is this?
It may just be like, this is the reality. We need to change this. And we're supposed to learn from that and not necessarily show the lesson play out. So yeah, he's a vampire, and they do a thing where he's like, hey, you want to see my real form? And they cut to her face and the camera moves up and lights are going and you hear these weird cracking and changing and gurgling sounds. So he turns into something, And then when it cuts back to him, he's back to normal. Like, see, now you believe me. It's like they cut away from
Just
all
the
the
Beetlejuice
excess.
thing of like
Yeah,
the
exactly. But it's just like a shadow, and you don't know what he is. And then she like meets an underground renegade group of people who know who he is, and these women who are attacked and survived, and the only way that they can stay safe is by staying in this sanctuary because of, I don't know, they wipe the walls with bleach. And because the thing is, he can smell you, and because she's on her period, like he could find her no problem. She even tries to do a thing like pulls her tampon out and throws it at a truck on a freeway, so he goes like goes the other way.
That's actually kind of fun.
It's ridiculous. And like she's trying to get the smell off her, and she's using like bleach wipes to wipe her head and her vagina, and she's just like all of her wounds she's cleaning with bleach to just get the smell off. And it works for a bit, but then it doesn't.
It's like a weird predator thing.
Yeah,
just cover yourself in mud.
Yeah. And so it's just weird that they have like this secret society of women who are trying to fight this thing, and they need to fight him now because, at 5:45 in the morning when the sun comes up, he'll be this day, he's his weakest, and we could finally kill him once and for all. And they set up a plan. It's a really great concept that they just blew out of proportion. I think the best way to say is it's a 10 episode miniseries of kind of like a 24 where each episode is an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And she has to make it 10 hours without getting killed, but they don't have the money to do 10 episodes. That's a lot. So let's take the 10 minutes of each episode that is most important and cram it into a movie. So it goes and it moves and it's like real quick from every situation to the next. It's something else. But then when you start getting into the deeper mythos of this vampire guy, it starts getting a little bizarre and maybe wasn't earned. So I was really into it at the beginning, and then it just kind of kept getting worse and worse and worse. I think the performances are really good, especially her. She's like terrified the whole time, but not great. Not a slam dunk.
I gotta say, I don't know if we've already talked about it, but from like a horror movie perspective, I don't like if I was an actor, I don't know if I think I would hate doing horror movies to just like go on set and just every day be like screaming or like hyping myself up and just like it just seems exhausting to be like the final girl in a horror movie.
You have to get to an emotional level for every take. And
like I think making them or directing them could be fun, but like being the star of one would just be
need your blood curdling scream. No, a little too high. Do it again and again and again. That's got to be awful.
Yeah.
Anywho, yeah, that's a Run Sweetheart Run. Yeah. Give it 20 years, remake this, tighten it up, make it a little simpler. Vampire hunts woman through city and fucks her the whole way. That's good enough. But Steve, you played a game.
I did.
Tell us about it, Steve.
Well, I can't tell. Like, normally we would do spoilers, but we'll do a spoiler-filled one probably after you've played it.
Give me a couple weeks.
But I played God of War Ragnarok. And for those who don't know, if I haven't talked about it on the show, I wasn't a God of War fan when it first came out. I think the first game I looked up was 2005. So God of War 2018 was the first game I ever played. And I played it because like I love mythology and it had great reviews. And I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. And I played it, and the first God of War 4, let's just call it God of War 4 for the easiness of it, is one of my favorite games of all time. Combat's so fun and has a great story of just this father and son who like don't understand each other, but go on this epic quest and kind of form a bond. And so this one, I was worried that it would sort of have the Last of Us 2 effect. Not on that same level. I expected it to be received better than Last of Us 2, but I feel like they were kind of in the same camp. Like this God of War story owes a lot to Last of Us because they played the Last of Us and they were like, oh, well, that's the story of God of War. We're in the future, so that's what we're doing. And even down to like, oh, they have here's a disgruntled, grunting, big, strong, tough guy with a younger teen sidekick with a bow and arrow. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, was expecting this game to be about as good, but maybe not as good as the first one, and that's just going to be what people are going to say. It's like, yeah, it's good, but it's a lot of the same stuff, but it's not The Last of Us, you know? And by God, this game is incredible. Just across the board, one of the most impressive feats of gaming I think that's ever been made.
You played the PS4 one. You're not even playing like the best looking version.
Sure. I played the PS4 version. Yes, correct.
Is there a difference between the two? Like plot wise, story wise?
No, I think the PS5 version just like loads faster and looks crisper or whatever.
And they still do the one take thing in this one?
Yes, they still do the one take thing.
So who cares about loading faster? You know? It's built in.
Like if you die, it probably takes 3 seconds versus 15 or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, this game is definitely tougher, I think, than the last one. But that might be, like, I always play it on the medium difficulty. But I replayed the first one over quarantine time, but I may have just, like, put it on easy. So, like, I kind of just, in my mind, it may not actually be easier, but I can't remember if I did that or not. Okay. But anyway, there's a ton of mini bosses. Like every realm you go to, there's multiple mini bosses in this place, and sometimes you kind of like discover them on the little side quests. Sometimes it's just like, you know, oh, what's this like random gravestone here? And you turn it, and it's like just big hulking berserker who's like super hard to beat. Like so many of the mini bosses, and it's like not. So many of these mini bosses are so fucking tough. I'm just like, they're like the Valkyries. It's like, right,
God, Jesus,
I gotta come back here later because I can't beat this guy right now. But
that's some of the funnest things of that God of War, where you're like in your boat and you go, hey, what's that over there? And then it takes you around a corner, and then there's a fucking dragon. And like, oh shit, I had no idea.
Yeah. But so mini bosses aside, like I definitely died, I think, a lot more in this game but it wasn't like so egregious where it was like taking me out. Most of the stuff, like the main storyline stuff, is actually easier than a lot of the side quest mini bosses, because they want you to like not struggle through the main story.
Have fun and listen to the story.
Yeah. If you want a challenge, here's some other stuff.
You want to get good, go here.
Combat's a lot of fun. They changed the combat so where like it's kind of actually really smart, and I don't know if I've seen it so much in other games where it's like, okay, you can use your experience to buy this move, and if you do this move 50 times, then you unlock another level, and once you get like gold, you can add extra damage to it, or you can add elemental attack to it, or you can add like a defensive ability. So like every move that you practice and get really good at, or like do it enough to where it unlocks,
gets better and better,
you can make that move even better. So there's like really fun ways to sort of like use that.
Did they take away from the crafting of armor and more crafting onto the moves, or is that
it's a separate thing? The armor stuff I think is the same.
Still,
you know, you open chests and you find materials, you have your hack silver that you find everywhere, and then you like buy new armor.
It's so tedious. I'm like, okay, I don't need this anymore. Break it down for your silver, and then, take 3 blue to make a mega blue, and then take 3 mega blue to make a ultra blue, and take 3 ultra blue, and now, you got the biggest gem. It's like that sort of tedious shit I hate. I like that addition of like, you do more on this game with this move, we'll give you even better moves. You like that move? Cool. Keep doing it a few more times. It's an even better move.
Yeah. I remember you saying you didn't love the armor thing. The armor stuff didn't really bother me all that much, because basically it was just like, okay, I'm level 1 now. I have a level 1 armor. They're like, oh, here's some other level 1 armor. It's like, no, I've already got one. And then you just pick one
Whatever's
armor and you just stick with it.
Like, this is bad. This is worse for ice. I don't give a shit. It's a 15. I had a 14. I'm taking it.
Yeah, I never upgraded anything until like the very last mission.
Oh, okay.
In terms of like, because I got like a level 6 armor, and then it was just like, but you can craft it to a level 8 level, like you can upgrade it higher, and it's like I didn't do any of that because like I gotta hoard these materials for when I get like the ultimate armor and just boost that up.
And it was like, could you put everything that you gained through that whole game into that final armor?
So right before the final mission starts, they give you, it's like, here's this armor for you. And so I was like, well, I gotta wear this thing. And then it was just like, well, I've never upgraded anything else. Like, and I know the game, this is the final chapter. I'm just gonna upgrade this, even though I know that there's probably better armors out there. Sure. It's like, fuck it, this is the end of the game.
There's more hack silver out there.
Yeah, who cares? So I upgraded that as far as it could go.
Nice. So did it go from like a 10 to a 25? Was it a huge
No, I don't think they
jump?
go to 20. I think they all max out at 10.
Oh, okay.
It was a 6 that I upgraded to a 9, I think.
Damn.
But I couldn't get to 10 because I think in order to get 10, I had to do like a bunch of like
Other
side
bullshit.
bullshit. Yeah, I was like, I'm not wasting my time with that. But anyway, so combat's great. The score, fantastic. Like Kratos' theme or the God of War theme itself, like that deep, like oh, like that kind of stuff is just like I've been doing it a poor,
No, it was amazing.
yeah,
Steve. Love it.
a poor performance, but like just whenever that song fucking hits, you just like it can be it can be like this really badass moment of Kratos, like getting ready for war. It could be like a sad moment where he's just sitting there like reflecting on his life. It's just a fantastic score throughout the entire game that really like accentuated the emotional moments. Um, but all that aside, I think the best part about this game is all the emotional beats and how Kratos has changed as a character and how Atreus has changed and how their relationships with all these side characters who get moments to shine. There's like one moment halfway through the game with Brock. It might be my favorite scene in the series.
Hmm.
And it's not like some big spectacle thing. It's just like this really nice kind of moment that they share, and I was just like, damn, this game's this game's like I didn't cry at all, but there's so many like good either sweet moments or sad moments, and it's just like the ending is fucking beautiful, and I can't believe this kind of thing exists because from a as a mythology fan and like you get to see all 9 realms, you go everywhere, and even places you've been before look different. There's new areas like you're not really exploring the same areas a lot, other than Midgard. Midgard's exactly the same, except now it's covered in snow. So that's not all that exciting, but at least it looks different
Yeah.
aesthetically wise. But yeah, every place is just it looks great, and the character work is fantastic, and I just can't speak highly enough of this game, and I am sure it's going to win tons of awards. And if you look on the reviews online, they're all essentially like 9s and 10s,
Mm-hmm.
and there's really not anything bad about this game. Like when the first like 10 hours of it, I was like, this is mostly the same. Like I'd see this game kind of like being repetitive and boring after a
Mm-hmm.
while, but then you just get deeper into the story, and I'll spoil one thing for you. You get a new weapon,
I was gonna ask that.
and
Do you start with the chains of?
yeah, you immediately start with the Leviathan axe and the Blades of Chaos,
Cool.
and then like halfway through the game, roughly, you get a new weapon. And
Didn't he have 3 in the other one as well, or was it just the 2?
in the last game,
Yeah.
well, you had the Leviathan axe for a while, and then like halfway through, you get the Blades of Chaos.
Yeah, but there wasn't a third
But
thing.
there wasn't a third.
Okay.
No. So you do get an additional weapon.
Is it a spear?
I won't tell you.
Okay.
I'm just gonna.
Is it Hercules' Lion's Fist from part 3?
But what's also fun, back to the combat real quick, is like all the side characters, like Brock will show up and start throwing like stuff at enemies, or Sindri will show up, or there's just other. It's like it's utilizing other characters in sort of like your Atreus spot,
Okay.
which is kind of like a fun little thing. It's like a way to switch up.
And
who's
it's
all
like part of the story is there with you at that time. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like you jump into a random arena.
It's not
just
like-
hey, I showed up, and they throw a rock from afar.
Oh yeah, like Atreus gets knocked out. It's like, Brock, we need you, and he jumps in, pulls the kid out. He's like, I got you, man, and then he starts like stabbing away.
Yeah,
It's nothing like
okay.
that. It's not like a DBZ or Tekken switch out
Yeah.
thing or whatever. But yeah,
I want to ask about the spectacle.
okay.
Is the big spectacle pretty spectacular? Because
Uh,
they started one of the games where you're climbing on the back of a titan to go kill a god. That's like the opening scene. Do they get to any levels that big? Like they had the big world serpent in the last one.
yeah. So if you're looking for spectacle, this game's got it.
Oh,
Especially at the end, because the game's called Ragnarok. Ragnarok's
okay.
the end of.
I guess I
and-
should have.
Yeah. So I'll say, the whole thing is just like, can we stop Ragnarok? Ragnarok happens.
Okay.
I don't think that's really a spoiler.
Okay.
But in how it happens may or may not be how you imagine it. But there's just a lot going on, and it's awesome. But yeah, because like I was wondering about that, because like how are they going to end this game? Because I think having not played 1 or 2, but has but I have played God of War 3. Like that opening sequence of God of War 3 is just one of the best sequences in gaming.
Yeah.
Like that whole, it's like the whole opening thing was like an hour long,
Yeah.
where you're like killing titans or climbing
You
titans
think you're running
and
through the
killing multiple
forest.
gods.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's crazy. I was like, that's gonna be really hard to top.
Mhm.
I don't know if they did, but it's on par.
Okay.
But that's also like the stakes of it, I think, too.
Mhm.
Versus just like, well, this is the opening, which like, yeah, we'll kill Poseidon here, but Zeus is going to be like the end
Yeah.
boss like 20 hours from now.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, Zeus.
yeah, but as a soon-to-be dad,
Mm.
like playing this game, not that I like gained some sort of like grand perspective, or just like, oh, I wasn't gonna, I probably wouldn't have cried in this game, and I not like had this idea of like fatherhood or whatever. But
Everything changes once you hold them.
yeah, but playing this is like, it just kind of gave me a perspective of just like, oh, like what it is to raise a child, and like advice you could give him, and like letting them make mistakes, but like, or like letting them, it's like, I don't know if you're making the right choice, but I trust you, and so I'll
Okay.
follow you into that. And just I don't, other than Last of Us, like you could compare these games so much, even though they're so like, one's so based in reality and one's
Mhm.
so fantastical.
Yeah.
Like they're so different, but I think what makes them my favorite games of all time is just like the character work, and like everyone seems real. And like if this was a television show, like a live action series that like ran for a couple seasons, or even an animated show, like you could connect with these characters, even though one is a god and one is a girl with a bow and arrow. It's like you could connect with these characters because they are real and they have real emotions, and all the choices they make sense. And it's just, I can't. I could talk about it for hours, and I can't wait for you to beat it, because
Like I said,
we'll have a lot to talk about.
sure. I know they released the nominees for Game of the Year, and of
Mhm.
course, it's on it.
Sure.
It was only like a week out, and it's on it.
I
But
think yeah, I think if it was out for a day, it would have been on.
yeah, it wouldn't even
We
be
didn't even play this,
released.
but we know it's
They're like,
here.
well, we're gonna put it on. We know it's there. You release it a month, cool. You'll get in before the ceremonies. We know it's good.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it's not gonna win. I think it's coming out too close, and I think Elden Ring is gonna take it. That game really seemed to take off, and even people who didn't seem to play hardcore video games wanted to jump in on Elden Ring. So I'm pretty sure that's my bet. I'm putting my money down. Elden Ring's gonna take it.
Yeah, I think like since the first game won Game of the Year, I wouldn't be surprised if this lost to Elden Ring, and like I wouldn't be upset if it lost to Elden Ring. But like seeing those like, here's two games where it's just about people with magic and swords and stuff, like killing other
Really
superpowered,
difficult things.
yeah, really powerful beings. It's just like, well, yeah, but I know the combat's not as good in
Hmm.
Elden Ring. Like you look at the combat of God of War, and it's like they had like it. And I can't speak to the like the behind the scenes stuff, because
Hmm.
I was watching stuff for God of War. It's just like, it just seems like there was so much detail put into that game versus like Elden Ring, which is like, yeah, well, yeah, you're just gonna stay in one space and you're gonna like swing your sword, and it's gonna do like a cool motion thing.
I could just hear people like, there's more to that then, and like I get it. There's parrying and tumbling, which you do in God
No,
of
no.
War, but it's like the combat was so refined of being able to switch to so many different moves and weapons within
it's
it.
it's so, there's so much you can do, but it's so simple in that,
Hmm.
and it could be very simple in Elden Ring as well.
But we'll
But
never know.
I'm saying, but what I'm saying is like, if you look at the visual aspect of it, like I think God of War just flows so seamlessly, where it just seems like Elden Ring is just like, oh, let me stand here and my sword is just going to make the same motion over and over
Mm.
again, and I'm going to get hit, and I'm going to stay in one space, I drink a potion and go back, like
Yeah.
that kind of, like, it just seems very like method,
Yeah.
where like you can sort of like mix and match, and there's whatever. I'm not going to get into the back and forth
Well, it
of
seems
Elden
like
Ring,
Elden
but
Ring is there to punish you, but
yeah.
God of War is there to reward you.
Exactly. That's a good comparison. Uh, but then also, it's like Elden Ring. Yes, is there a story? Sure.
What's who's the main character? I'm assuming it's a create your own and you just like embody.
Yeah, you build your own character,
Yeah.
but like you don't have a name, and
Yeah.
you're not. The story is you wake up and then you have to kill everything.
Yeah.
And And I know there's a bunch of Elden Ring fans out there who'd be like, well, actually, shut the fuck up.
You give yourself your name, so you do have a name. But it's like the story isn't built around your character.
Yeah.
You're just playing just this avatar, and you're doing cool
And I'm sure
stuff.
all those bosses have like really cool backstories,
Sure.
but what's their backstory have to do with the grand scheme of things?
Yeah.
Well, it just builds, it's world building. It's like, okay. But I'm just saying, like,
God of War has this as well.
yeah. And I don't know, like, I know that there's like cutscenes when you like run into bosses, but it's not like, I don't think they like talk to you or like you have a connection with them. Like, you have a connection with every single person you meet in God of War, and good or bad. And it's just, I would give it to God of War solely because it has everything Elden Ring has plus a story.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
like it's just one of the most incredible games I've ever played.
Can't wait to play it. I'm gonna be very happy when you're done digging around with it. I'll talk about the menu real quick. I saw the menu. It's good. I liked it. It's fun. I don't think it really walks a fine line of being kind of funny and kind of satirical, but I don't think it goes hard enough in any one way. I think it could have probably been a little bloodier. It could have been a little meaner. Could have had like more of a point. But I get what they're trying to say. And, I'm not going to even like summarize the movie. You know what the menu is. There's been trailers for it for months. But everybody's really good. Ray Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy are fantastic. Nicholas Hoult is so good in this. Like a real like prick of a nice guy. A big foodie who thinks he knows everything, and lots of fun little twists. But I feel I wanted this to be this year's Knives Out. I thought it was going to be like super clever.
I was just about to ask, is it sort of like trying to be like a Knives Out mystery kind of thing? Because like that one was very comical, along with like, oh, I don't know how this is going, versus like the menu trailer made it seem like, oh, this is like kind of like a dark, fucked up thing.
It's a comedy thriller,
right,
more than a mystery, because there's not. It's like the whole time you're thinking like, oh, something's up, something weird's going to happen, but what is it? And then when it's revealed, it's just, okay, that's fine. That's not some like big, crazy, out of left field. Oh, the reason he's fucking with these people is because of this. And it's like some of it is, some of it isn't. Some people that are there like don't deserve some of the outcomes that happen. And then they do some nonsensical things. Like in the trailer, you see them all lined up and like, we're going to let you go run and we're going to go hunt you down. That feels like the last scene of the movie. And it's just something that happens in the middle. They make them all go run, and they all get caught. The last person who gets caught got like a special dish made specifically for them. They were the only one that got to have it. And like, okay, but what was the point of that? Nobody like died because of it. They all got caught, got brought back, and then they continued eating the menu. So it was interesting. I will say visually, I like it. Every time a new course comes out, they'll highlight it on the screen, and it'll have like, not an ingredients list, but a little description of what it is. And sometimes that stuff is kind of funny. And it all looks really neat. But I gotta say, the food looked disgusting. I wouldn't eat most of the things they serve. And it's like, oh, this is all the flavors of the ocean. I don't eat seafood. Sorry. And that's one of the things I like about Anya Taylor-Joy is like one of the courses is like the breadless bread course. And so there's no bread, and it's just like the dipping sauces, and people are going like, oh, wow, how amazing and how unique. And she's just like, I'm not eating this. This is like fucking condiments. This is stupid. And they're like, you need to eat the food. And you're like, no, I don't want to. Because she wasn't Nicholas Hoult's first choice to go.
Okay.
So she's just kind of, I won't spoil it, but she's his new girlfriend. So I really like her sassiness with it, and Ray Fiennes is really menacing but surprisingly funny. I had a good time. I don't think it really like kills it with the message, but I had a lot of fun watching it. Especially the final thing, the dessert course, almost is a little too silly. I think it could have been more clever. I don't know what, but I recommend it. And I was gonna go see Bones and All. But I showed up to the theater kind of early, and it's like, oh, I'm a half hour before this starts, and then there's 20 minutes of previews. Oh, fuck it, the menu's starting now. I'm going to go see that. So hopefully next week I can talk about Bones and All. And just maybe by seeing it, it will stop all the fucking ads. Have you noticed how many ads for Bones and All?
Yeah, and like
Crazy amount of advertisement.
it's from the guy who made Call Me by Your Name,
Yeah.
and it's like it doesn't seem like a movie. I mean, I know it's like I think it's trying to market itself as like kind of a horror movie because like oh she's a girl who eats people.
I
I
think
know
it's absolutely a horror movie.
well sure, but I'm just it. I think it can be a horror movie, but it doesn't look like your typical one. Is what I'm saying. Like it's
Okay.
not like I don't think the trailers are really marketed to be scary. It's just like look
Mm.
at this like weird concept of like a girl who eats people.
Mhm.
But it's just like, is it just like the Chalamet? Does he have that much pull? Like, we got to get the
I
tweens
guess.
in here or something? Because, like, yeah, I agree. I've seen nothing but Bones and All. It's like, this doesn't seem like the movie that would, like, make
No.
money.
And why is this is the Thanksgiving release? This
Yeah.
came out on Wednesday before
I never even
Thanksgiving.
heard about this movie until, like, I think a month ago
Yeah.
when you brought it up. And now it's all I see.
Everywhere. Yeah. I get a Doctor Sleep vibe from it.
Okay.
You know, just weird subset of people who have to like eat for
Sure,
a certain
sure.
reason, and you got weirdos who also have the same powers. Yeah, but our buddy Nick saw it and he really enjoyed it, so I'm excited. As long as I get to see that and Avatar and Glass Onion, I think those are the three that I give a shit about before I could like make my official list
Yeah.
of the year. I'm sure there's like
And I
one
hear
other
Glass
thing.
Onion's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Okay. Are you gonna go see it in theater? Or are you just gonna wait for Netflix?
No,
'Cause it's not same day, right? It's like a week in theater, then Netflix.
I don't know.
Huh.
I think I'm gonna make the jump and get like the movie pass thing for
Yeah.
like $20 a month or whatever it is
Yeah.
because it's like I'm spending roughly that much a month anyway,
You
if
should.
not more. So I was like,
And it's funny. Nick was just talking about. He's like, I'm gonna get rid of it. There's some times where there's nothing. It's like, yeah, maybe this month is nothing, but next month could be three things, and then you've just paid for both those months. So
yeah.
you're fine.
And I think it'd be also I could see myself assuming I had the time. It's like, oh, there's this movie that I wouldn't normally see, but it's just I
how
have
they-
unlimited movies.
See
I might
how
as well
they
see.
run is out. I would never pay to go see that.
Yeah.
But I'm interested, and so if I had the movie pass, I
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's like,
would.
oh, I need a reason to get out of the house for 2 hours. I'm gonna go see this movie I don't care about,
Absolutely.
or I care about, but not deeply. You
Yeah.
know?
Care about enough to see, don't care enough about to give them money.
Yeah. Even though I give them money every month.
Technically, who
Yeah.
knows how that works? How much of a cut they get from the movie pass? Who knows?
Sure.
Yeah. You want to get to our main topic?
Let's do it. We've rambled on too long anyway.
Yeah, about an hour, so a little over an hour.
Oof.
I've been waiting almost 4 weeks because I blew through this way quicker than you. As I have more downtime, I can do like 6-7 episodes in one sitting, and maybe you could only do that every weekend.
Yeah, in order to get this done in a timely fashion, I was watching an episode on the drive to work and the drive back. So I was watching at least 2 episodes a day in the car. Is it safe? No.
No.
Did I stare at the screen the entire time? No. So you could argue that maybe I didn't get the full experience, but like I got it. At stoplights, I was looking at it, and like on highways, I could like peek down every now and then. You know, it's fine.
School zones, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I was watching it.
Look, the point is, I finished it.
Yeah. And so what we're talking about is Death Note. Do you remember the year it came out? I didn't write that down.
I want to say 2007.
Okay.
I think 2006, 2007, if I remember correctly.
37 episodes of this wildly popular anime. An anime I hear everybody talk about as being one of their favorites. Death Note. And so a quick synopsis. A super genius known as Light
Yagami.
Light Yagami, a book falls from the sky. And he picks it up and it says Death Note on it. And if you write anybody's name and how they're going to die in this book, it will happen. And if you don't write how, they just die of a heart attack. And then a Shinigami shows up.
Oh, now I get to correct you on all the names.
That's why. Hey, it's been 4 weeks. A death god will show up and just kind of like hang out with you while you kill people, if you choose to kill people. And it's about what is he gonna do with it? And he decides he's gonna do some good and he's gonna change the world. But hot on his heels is another super genius known only by the name L, and he's gonna figure him out. And they're gonna have a crazy cat and mouse game for a while, and then it's done. So, Steve, why'd you want to watch Death Note?
I believe it was for the same reason as you.
Yes.
We both saw the newest Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, where they
Yes.
spoofed Death Note.
Death Tomb, I think they called
Death
it.
Tome,
Death
yeah.
Tome, yeah.
Yeah. And it was a fun little spoof, apparently animated by the same people who did
Yeah.
Death Note, which is kind of a cool little thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Great Treehouse of Horror. All three bits were fantastic.
My personal favorite was the Westworld one, just because
so
all the
good.
references.
Yeah.
But anyway, the fact that they did a different animation style is,
Mhm.
I always like seeing that when they do different stuff. But I mean, Death Note is something I've known of for a long time. I've watched more animes than you, but it never really like came up on my radar as a must watch. It's like, oh, I'll get to it when I get to it, kind of thing, if I decide to. Plus, in my recent years, I've just been like hardcore anti-anime for the most part.
Come to the dark side.
Even though I've, in the past few weeks, I've been, the only 4 shows I'm watching are all animes.
Really?
Yeah. I'm currently watching, because they all kind of started at the same time. I'm watching My Hero Academia season 6, Chainsaw Man, which just came out.
I hear that's great.
And
is it done?
The final season of Mob Psycho.
Okay.
Which Mob Psycho is great.
Yeah.
My Hero Academia is My Hero Academia. And Chainsaw Man, that's a whole other conversation. Okay. I don't want to get into
Is it done, though? Is that first season done, or is it still?
No. It's only 7 episodes in, and I don't know how many episodes this season
I've seen so much like fan art and cosplays, and it's only 7 episodes have been released.
I mean, I think there's like a ton of like manga volumes, so that might be some of the stuff that you're seeing.
I don't know. Because I heard like, well, I mean, I absolutely know nothing, but I heard the studio kind of like bet the farm on this show. So I assumed it was a new idea that they thought was great. I figured, if it was a pre-existing manga thing being adapted, I don't know. Maybe I have no idea.
I mean, I don't know when it came. I want to say it's only started like coming out, like the books only started coming out in like 2017 or 18. Okay. Like it's real new, and I think the only reason it's like a show now is because it was so popular. It was like one of the most requested, like, make this an anime now. It's like, this manga could go on for like 10 years. Yeah. And it's like, we got to make it now. We're going to run out of episodes.
You should not. If you're doing an adaptation, there needs to be at least 5 years worth of stuff. Like 5 volumes, not like 5 issues, but like 5 seasons worth of content already out before you get started. Because by the time you get to the end of it, they're only going to be on season 7.
Yeah.
Or unless like,
have we learned nothing from George R.R. Martin?
Yeah, we don't need a bunch of filler bullshit. Well, yeah, because I was interested in it. It's just such a stupid looking character. I mean, he's cool, but it's ridiculous. A chainsaw for a head and chainsaw for arms. Does he talk?
He does talk.
Okay,
yeah.
He doesn't just go like run.
I mean,
like,
he does,
Chainsaw Man,
but he also speaks.
Okay, good. But we're not here for Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, we're not.
We're here for Death Note. Yeah, like you said, I watched that Simpsons episode, and I was a little bit familiar with this show because I had seen the Japanese movie. It was at one of the theaters I worked at when I was living in Vegas. It was one of the. Was it a Fathom event? Something like that. It was just
sure.
One night only. See Death Note. And all my friends, bunch of weebs, so they're like, oh, we got to go see that. I'm like, all right, whatever. And I saw it, and it was just like, yeah, that was fun. That was kind of cool. I didn't get a chance to rewatch that. It's not available anywhere.
So you've watched the Japanese film and the American film.
Interesting.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to watch it again. And there's like a lot of sequels. There's like, this is a case that L had before this, and I guess in supplemental material, L stopped World War III because he was so smart and he could do things. Like, there's a lot of other stories with these characters that happened before all this. I don't care about any of that because I think this is a really interesting concept. The characters are not as interesting. This is, you give any type of person this sort of power, that's an interesting story. They decided to go with super genius versus super genius, and that's fine for one story, but I don't think that's all Death Note needs to be. Give this book to a dumbass. Give this book to like a religious leader. You give it to a lot of different people, you could get a lot of different stories. So the story of L and Light, I don't care about them. I care more about what this Death Note can do and how it can facilitate other interesting stories. Did you like this anime?
Ultimately, I did. Um, we'll dive deep into it. There's only one character I didn't like, and I
I
think
could
it's
only
yeah,
guess.
and I imagine it's the character most people don't particularly care for.
Yeah.
Um, and but
Actually, there's quite a few that I don't like in this show.
sure. I mean, I think the characters are the weakest part of this, but I think the story in itself saves it a lot. Um, and what I like best about it is it's not, there's like essentially no violence. There's no like
Yeah.
big fight sequences.
Uh-uh.
There's no
No
dudes doing
blood.
kamehamehas all over the place. There's no, there's nothing fantastical. It's just humans
Yeah.
with this one power.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like there's some sexual stuff, but it's very minimal.
Yeah.
It really doesn't do a lot of the anime tropes that I've seen in so many of like the most popular animes.
It
So that,
tries and then it holds back. Like the guys are drooling over Misa and then but they could go an extra layer of pervertedness, I think, but they hold back. They push it to a line and I think other animes would have gone past that line.
sure. Um, but I think what also makes it this is a show with actual adults. Like
Yeah.
the first part of it is you know he's in high school, but there's a point where it quickly jumps like a year ahead, and it's like okay, so now he's 19 and he's in
Mm-hmm.
college, and then it's like now it jumps 4 years. It's like so now he's like in his 20s. Like
Yeah.
it's this is an adult story just in like animated form,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I like, and it's simple in its execution, but grand in its ideas. So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say that this was more positive experience for me than a negative
Mm-hmm.
one. Like I'm glad I watched it, but I do have several nitpicks, which we'll get
A
into.
million, yes. This really should have been 15 episodes. Maybe you could push it to 20. Because I got to about episode 15 and I was like, holy shit, I have more left than I have already watched. How long can they milk this fucking subject? It's essentially just figure out who the killer is and how is the killer going to get away with it. And they just every they try every little thing to just spread this story out, and I think they do it kind of wrong at times. When it goes to commercial, there's always these fun little rules about I had a good one, hold on. So say I write in the death note Donald Trump dies in 2 weeks, and then you write in the death note Donald Trump dies now. It won't do yours because mine is already logged in as this is what's going to kill him. So there can be fun stories of someone going like, haha, I'm going to kill this person, and like, oh no, don't do it. And they do it and it doesn't work. And we're left with the mystery of, well, why didn't it work? I put the name in, I put how, but this person is still alive. What's going on? And could be a fun thing. Like they present us with a ton of rules, but don't exploit a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it could have been more clever because they do some things that I think they think are clever. Like we'll get to the potato chips, which are just absolutely the dumbest fucking thing in the world. And why did we have to do it this way? This is a really fun, interesting story, and they just have to make these characters just so much fucking cooler than the other one. And they're like the thing that bugs me the most is just like, haha, he's playing into my hand. Oh, haha, I want him to think I'm playing into his hand. Ha ha ha, I want him to think that he thinks that I want him to play into my hand.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing this up, but can I? This goes back to one thing I wanted to immediately talk about
Mm-hmm.
is we got to talk about the tennis match scene.
Okay,
That
let's.
that's the biggest I think of all the scenes that you're describing, which
Uh-huh.
is essentially the show. I think there's no scene more egregious than the fucking tennis match between L and Light,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just like them going back and forth at every hit. It's like it's the most anime thing that they do, I
Yeah.
think, in the entire show, where it's like he's hitting it, but it's like slowing down. It's like well, if I lose, he thinks that I'm faking it, and then he'll want me to do that. But if I win, it'll just show that I'm driven to win, which is what he thinks Kira is after all along. It's like, okay, so there's no right answer. Then just do whatever the fuck you want. Like, who cares?
Yeah,
like,
because there's always a flip to every fucking thing.
Yeah, it's just like, so if there's no right answer, then just do whatever the fuck you want, because you're not going to play into his hand if both answers play into his hand.
Yeah.
And that's the same for him. Like, you're both going, well, he might do this or he might do that. But if he does this, I'll know this. But if he does this, I'll know this. But it equals, I know this.
I know.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It proves that what I am thinking is correct, but it doesn't really prove it to anybody else because they're not me. And they're not a genius.
If the idea is just like, we just want to show how smart they are and how they're playing like 3D chess at all times. Like, yeah, I get it. But if the end goal means I'm going to believe he's Kira whether he wins or loses this tennis match, well, then it's irrelevant. And it, like, that whole scene, I was just, this is dumb.
and it's the thing. One of the things I hate the most about anime, and I think it's one of the things that people like the most about anime. And even like fucking John Boyega was talking about it when he was on Hot Ones, about how the shows can take time to have characters be introspective of what they're doing and why. And in American shows and movies, you don't always just spout that sort of information.
It's about, the goal is to show, don't tell. Where in anime, it's, we're going to tell you everything and then show you this huge spectacle thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And so this show could be told as storyboards. You don't need to animate this show for most of it because it's just one person
sitting on a computer,
and it's frozen, and it'll do like an inverse so their hair turns color, and it's just them thinking deeply. Oh my god, if I do A, then he knows B, and yada yada yada, and then it'll come out of their mind and then go to another character, and they'll do the same thing, and for minutes at a time, they're just still photos. Yes, the camera's panning across it, and maybe there's some movement in the background, some action lines or whatever to give it some sort of motion. But this is such a still show. It is it's nice looking, but it's just so simplistic. And I
don't mind any of that stuff.
And of all the shows, it makes sense for this one to be it because it is a detective show. It's a mystery and you're trying to figure out. So that's what you do in cop shows. Cops are explaining things to each other. So I get it. It's just my least favorite thing. And it's more egregious in fighting where it's just like, oh my God, he's coming at me with his crazy kick. You remember back when he kicked me in elementary school and I didn't learn my lesson about it, but now he's not going to. And it's like in the heat of the moment of battle, I don't want deep introspective thoughts. He could explain it afterwards to a friend or whatever, but in the thick of things.
Yeah, I think in fights there are moments where like that kind of works. It's like, some big move that the bad guy's about to do on the hero, and he does some sort of amazing block, and it's like, okay, how do you get out of that one? Like, from the context of the show, it's just like, well, it just looks like he was standing here, now he's over here. It's like, well, actually, he did this the last second. It's like, you can do that, and then it'd be like, oh, that makes sense. It's like, oh, we thought of that so quickly. That's neat. But then you do that 50 different times in the same fight over 12 episodes. Like, fucking just end this fight already. I'm so tired of it.
It's a 7-move fight, but it's taken 3 episodes because every move just needs to be so much. The only time it really gets like super dramatic is when like Light is writing.
I actually love that.
And it's like, we gotta pump some sort of energy. So he's just like scribbling and the camera's zipping around and pages are flying. And then even later, there's this guy just like, delete. Ah! Like they are just so hard when they're doing this. They're so excited about all this writing. It's so dramatic. It's very funny, taken out of context. But it makes sense for the show.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that is their version of like the big battle sequences. It's just like this, right? Like, because this is a superpower, so this is him using the anime stuff, and everything else is based in reality. So I kind of like that concept of just like them over accentuating the writing portion of it. I think it was fun. It didn't bother me. It's like, is it a little silly? Of course, because all anime is a little silly. But I actually kind of liked it in this show. It added a sense of like, I don't know, especially with the score that goes with it. I think the show's got a pretty solid score.
It does. It gets a little repetitive when you watch episode to episode
Sure.
because it's like, oh, Elle's gonna talk, and then we get this blink, 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 blink sort of piano sound every single time he goes into the long explanation. So it gets a little, you know exactly what you're gonna see next. Oh, that musical cue. I know exactly what's
It's
happening.
like watching an episode of Law and Order. You're getting the same ominous
Yeah,
tones in the background or whatever
for
it is.
sure. So let's talk about our main characters.
Okay.
So Light, boy genius, you know, best at everything. The girls love him. He's super smart. He's athletic. He's a good son. He's a good brother. He should be the perfect person to get a death note. But by the end of the first episode, he's already fucking crazy.
Yeah.
He's like giggling to himself about all the power he has, and he does his first few ones are good. Like he stops a hostage situation and like a woman being harassed in the street. But then instantly goes like, "Oh, I'm doing 5 pages worth of stuff," and he just starts killing everyone.
Mass murder, yeah.
Because he wants to be a god, and I think they could have worked on the slow downfall, but it was just instantly like, but which is one of the things I like, and something that we'll get to later, is when he kind of loses his memory about it. You see what this character is like in this world that he didn't create. So he's like, oh my God, this Kira guy is the fucking worst. So you actually get to see there is a good person there. It's this thing has corrupted him so poorly, so badly.
Yeah.
And then when he gets it back, it's the instantly cackling villain again, like my plan has finally worked. But it was nice seeing that, like, no, he is really a good guy. There is good in him. He's just gone crazy with power.
Yeah, and I wish that that's one of the like the character stuff I think is the weakest, and it's like because that's like it was the instant jump of now I have unlimited power, so now I'm just essentially evil right away, which like you can do, but it's not like the Death Note makes you evil. It's just here's this thing, and it's like. Is it just the fact that it's like once you write down that first name, you have killed a person? Is it just so much easier to go like, well, I've already done it, so I might as well just keep doing it. So it's the damage is done. So 1 or 100,000 doesn't make a difference. I've killed a person.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to make that jump, I just like that's where I don't need you to justify your fight sequences. I need you to justify your character actions and like, if he is this good person without it, who does think Kira's a bad person and who does think like who has like a moral compass, like explore that. But I don't think they really ever did. It was just like, I have it. I'm a good person. Oh, this thing is taking out bad guys. And it's just like, well, I'm a good person because I'm only killing bad people. But from the get-go, like you said, he is kind of just like, you can tell he's got evil in him. It's like, did the book bring that out of him, or is that is the idea that humans are innately evil given unlimited power? There was never any real struggle for him. Was it just like, oh, well, now that I have this, I can, because I am better than my peers already. Now I've ascended to godhood because he's like, I will be the god of the new world. Like, we never really established like that idea of like, would he want to be a god, or like, I don't know. It just all happens so quick. Yeah, like I wish like there was any more explanation, because it's just like, yeah, he's better than his peers, but he's still like just a dude.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he never felt like, if he was an asshole in school and rubbed it in people's faces, thought he was a know-it-all, but he was just like, yeah, I'm really good at this stuff, but I don't think I'm better than you. I'm just a dude. I'm just a guy. And he gave no hints that he had this longing of, ooh, I really need to change the world. He saw bad things and was like, man, that sucks, and just so happens to get the power early. I feel if in school we saw him desire that more, and like if he was, say, part of student council and he was really hard on his classmates because they weren't pulling their weight, something.
Like, that's why I kind of liked, I think his name is like Mikimaki or whatever. He's the guy who does the delete.
Okay, yeah.
Like his backstory, like I understand why he would use the death note.
Because he was a lawyer.
Well, he was like, he had a sense of justice from an early age, and he would like stop bullies from picking on weaker kids, even if it got him beat up. It was just like, I'm gonna do right all the time. It was like black or white. this is good, this is bad, and then he becomes a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a natural
Yeah.
progression to like I want to make this world better.
Yeah.
So then
I,
there's that versus Light, who's just like, well, no, I'm. It's like even that whole thing of like him being a genius. I never really established him as a genius until the show was just like, well, no, he's a
he's
genius
a genius.
because like he can be the top of the class, but it's like he's still going to high school. If he was a genius, he could be a
He would have
15-year-old college student or
he would have
something.
been pulled
But
out.
he's like the smartest man in the world, versus other than L,
Yeah.
I guess. But so it's just like it never seemed like he earned anything.
Yeah.
He should be the Walter White of anime, and the fact that it's like he was a nobody who was like he could have been in high school and he could have had bullies, he could have had people shitting on him, or it's like yeah, his dad's a cop and he learned his sense of justice from his dad, but he also saw how like the justice system has failed, and so that's why he's like I'm going to do what my dad can't.
Yeah.
But there's none of that. It just goes like oh, I have this book and I'm going to just kill people immediately.
Yeah.
It just there's no struggle with it at all.
Because they don't establish that he was going to join the force with his dad until after he had the death note. So it's not like I want to be like my dad and do good things.
I mean, they did say he did help on cases from time to time. So like that may have been the show going like he was probably always going to be a cop, but it was never.
They could have played that up.
They could have played that up,
a little bit more. Yeah, for sure. So our third lead is Ryuk, our death god.
Mm-hmm.
He, which it's a little wishy-washy on some of the rules with the gods. Like he has his own death note, but he stole or he got permission to get another death note to bring to Earth just for fun. It seems.
Well, I think I could be wrong, but I thought he stole a death note just from one of his peers for fun.
Okay, but in the first episode, they were talking about like, oh, didn't he lose one and had to ask for another one?
Oh, yeah, that's
and
what
it was. Like
yeah.
He was pretending he lost one to get one.
That's correct.
But that was a different death gods because he comes to come and claim it later. That weird one. So it's like we see the like head king of the death gods, but we don't really know the rules. Like later we meet another one called Rem, and she brings it. And like I brought this specifically for you, and we'll talk about that later. But did she need to? I didn't feel like what was her purpose of bringing a death note into the world. It just seemed like Ryuk was like, "Hey, you're giving me more lives, and I'm just having fun watching you kind of make the world burn." But Rem seemed different, but I didn't get what her actual motivation.
If I remember correctly, she gave a death note to Misa, and it's like because she had feelings for Misa, maybe not necessarily in a romantic way, but just like I care for you, even though like death gods don't typically care for human beings. And it was the death, and it was weird how they presented it because like from the context of the show, it looked like a different person completely, like the man who was going to stab her, and that Shinigami killed himself by writing that guy's name, and it's like because I thought Rem said the Shinigami died so you could live. So here's the death note. This was his death note. That's my sort of gift to you because now I've come to care for you.
Okay.
But I thought the woman in the flashback would have been totally different from Misa. So I don't know if that was Misa in the flashback or not.
It is.
Okay, so it is. Yeah. So I think it was just Rem.
A misdirect of animation, maybe.
Okay.
But it's like Rem has her own, but when we first introduced like Misa, I gave this to you for a specific reason. But she doesn't really say, and maybe the specific reason is just the god that fell in love with you died so you can live, and that my reason is just to give it to you. But it seemed like Rem had loftier ambitions, but they never really were presented that way. But regardless of that, I love Ryuk.
Ryuk's fun.
He's great.
Awesome silhouette.
Oh, amazing. Great look and just a great voice. Funny at times.
In case we haven't established, you and I both watched the dub. We didn't do any subtitles.
Oh yeah.
So.
No, I'm not reading 36 episodes of this, especially with like how fast they talk and all the little like weird cat and mouse stuff. I wouldn't have been able to follow it if I just read it. So yes, I like that throughout the whole story. Ryuk was neutral and like he knew stuff that Light didn't, and only helped him when it really benefited him, or he thought like, oh, this is gonna fuck up Light. And I need Light to keep going for my own enjoyment. I will help him there, but I'm not going to go kill
Yeah, I'm not gonna kill
L.
anybody for you. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna like give you like necessarily hints, but it's like, oh,
Hmm.
you want me to like give this book to this person? I'll do that
Yeah.
because this is all part of your plan. And if it fails, whatever. I'm just gonna kill you anyway with my death
Yeah.
note. But Ryu kind of just seemed like a trickster god or something, like a Loki kind of type. It's just
Hmm.
like I'm just here for the fun of it, and just
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter. Like you're all ants to me kind of thing,
Yeah.
but entertaining ants, I
Hmm.
guess.
But I need you to do this thing because I live longer. The earlier you die, I get to steal those years off of those
Mhm.
people.
Making deals and trading eye powers and
Hmm.
stuff. Like there's some fun stuff there. I wish we had more time in the Shinigami world. Like not that
Yeah.
it's like an exciting world just because
No.
it's all just dust
Desolate.
and
Yeah.
desolate and bones of
Yeah.
creatures but just like their culture I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And I'm always interested in that kind of thing. But not that it needs to be explained, but I would
Mm-mm.
like to see more of
Yeah,
it.
I thought we would have
Anyway,
gotten a very special episode of just
just
them
a day
doing
in the
their
life of
thing.
Ryuk or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, yeah.
And they all had such really like
Unique designs.
unique designs. Everybody looked cool. I loved every single one of them. They were all different enough, but similar enough that that they're all the same thing.
Yeah.
So I loved him, and he is voiced by Willem Dafoe in the live action, and that's perfect.
Yeah, good casting there.
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Uh, so our second lead,
Our second lead
L.
is L, everyone's favorite character, I guess. He's the fan favorite
I could, yeah.
because he's the good guy, genius, and he's just so much smarter. But he's just so quirky in a way that's obnoxious. He sits in his chair, like feet on the seat, knees up high. He holds everything with his thumb and finger, like his phone up to his ear, like it just got dropped in a toilet or something.
Yeah.
Everything he picks up is that way, and it's so obnoxious. I really don't like L. He bugs me. I would not want to work with him. Like, you're pretentious. Oh, yes, you're the smartest person in the world. But it would have been hard for me to just like take him for his word. He got on my nerves. Do you like L?
No, I wouldn't say I like him. I think I just don't mind him.
Mm-hmm.
Like those, I would take a million of those like weird quirks over like, uh, we'll just say a Misa type character.
Sure. Or the
Because he
young.
wasn't annoying. Like, yeah, he was pretentious and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but it wasn't like it was all uh earned pretentiousness
Sure.
because he always was right.
Yeah.
Um,
But that makes for such an uninteresting character.
oh, 100%.
Every step of the way, he knows. And even when there's a perfect showing that Light is not Kira, he still has it in the back of his mind because he's just so smart. He's going to figure it out no matter what. And you lose a lot of the tension in the show because you just know. He's just so smart. He's going to figure it out. And they try to do like, oh, well, maybe we're just friends. But in the back of his mind the whole time, it's like, this is my 7 layers deep plan. Well, if I befriend him and I go to school and, yada, 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 it eventually will turn out that I was correct because it was the plan all along.
Yeah, and I mean, there, that's the classic thing of just like, well, here's the handsome, popular, like everything going for him guy, and here's this like shut-in weirdo. It's
Mhm.
like how like look at these two complete opposites becoming friends or having so much in common, but are just on different sides of a thing, like
Mhm.
a weird Romeo and Juliet thing or something like that. But like, I never really feel like that relationship ever plays up. Like, I can tell that they have respect for each other because they
Yeah.
realize you're the closest thing to me
Yeah.
that there is.
Yeah.
So, but
So let me wash your feet in the rain.
what the
I know it's like a Judas and Jesus thing. I think it's a religious sort of thing.
Sure. But my point is, it's like I never really felt like there should have been like I would have loved if they like built a relationship in the sense of just like even though no matter what L was gonna kill, I mean, Light was gonna kill L. When he finally has to do it, I want him to kind of like hesitate for a second because
Yeah.
like once this game's over, there's no challenge anymore. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll be the god of the new world, which is what I've always wanted. But it always felt to me like L loved playing the game for the game, not to win
Yeah.
the game. Even though he's always like, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win to be the god. It just seemed like he would have more fun
You mean
playing
Light. You said L, but you meant Light.
yeah, Light. I'm sorry, Light.
Which is weird. Don't give your two main characters L and Light. They're two L names. That's strange.
Yeah, but I have a pitch for the show. But
Ooh.
so a lot of people say that the show, but I will do that at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people say like once L dies, that's kind of like where the show falls off.
Absolutely.
And I agree. I think there's some good stuff at the tail end.
Sure.
But for the most part, it's just like, why this? And like, if this was, let's say, the first 26 episodes, you broke them up into 12 episodes, or like you made a live action show, it's the first 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
L dies at the end of season 2. You're like, oh my God, how are they going to do season 3? It's like, oh, well, we're going to give you another L. And it's just like, but he's younger and just as smart.
Yeah. And he also has some weird quirks.
Yeah, it's just like, give me somebody on the complete other. If you want to make him a super genius too, sure, because how else you're going to need a genius to catch a genius. But like, that's kind of like Mello should have been the dude.
Yeah.
Because Mello was, he was smart. Maybe, and he's like, he didn't have to be as smart as L, but maybe but L gave him all the information and he sort of like was able to crack the code. He's charismatic. He can talk to people. He's kind of dangerous. He doesn't play by the rules. He's like not beholden to like the cop thing that L seemed to be for some reason. Like Mello should have been the one who like really was the one who closed this case out, not Near, who was just a fucking white-haired carbon copy of L. Like, who cares?
So boring.
Like, Mello's only quirk was like he likes chocolate.
That dude, sometimes he'd have like 2 bars in an episode. Come on.
I'm just saying, like, at least he seemed like a person.
Yeah.
It's like there's always characters in anime who are just like so devoid of human emotion. And it's like, is that just like, do you just think like stoic, brooding characters are just so fucking cool?
Yeah,
or is that just like what Japanese culture just like assumes like you can only be a genius if you're like kind of quiet or something, or like a weirdo?
Yeah.
You can make a character.
No. So then our fourth lead, everyone's favorite character, Misa. I was so excited because I've seen this character like as cosplays and knew it was associated with Death Note. But when I started this, I totally forgot this character ever existed. So when she showed up as like, oh, she's a second Kira, and she was this like spunky goth girl who's like a fashion model, I was like, oh wow, that's a twist. You get someone who's not the super genius, who has the same goals. This could be fun, either as enemies or as friends. This adds a new dynamic. But she instantly just says, here's my death note. I'm in love with you. I'll let you abuse me. Just let me be around you.
It's like that Sydney Sweeney Euphoria scene where
oh yeah, when she's in the bathroom, or when she's explaining to him like, I'll dress like her, I want everyone to know that I'm yours. And
doesn't she say something just like not that you can abuse me, or just like I don't care how you treat me or something, or you can treat me like shit if you want to or something like that. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And Misa is just the most pathetic character I've ever seen created. And to a point of, why is she even there? Yes, I guess it's someone for him to confide in and use and manipulate. And when you have 2 death notes, it's handy.
I think Misa as a concept is great.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but I just think like
I do it to you all the time, so go for it.
I think that the idea of like him having a worshiper like her is really smart,
and not just of him, but of Kira as well.
Kira, yes. Yeah. That she has a death note. I like that she has an ability he doesn't have. So it's like, oh, she loves me and she sacrificed years for me and she can see my enemy, so I don't have to sacrifice my lifespan. Like, I think that there's so many cool ideas with her that she's just a completely devoted follower. It's just, she's so goddamn annoying. It's like, you could have just made her a really cool, interesting character. You could have totally made her like obsessed and like, and that's fine. But it's just how she was portrayed as obsessed. And just her like kitty, because I think she might be older than Light, or maybe they're the same age, or what. It's like I don't know. It's just like all these anime girls, whether they're 14 or 30. They all act the same.
Yeah.
And that's what drives me up the fucking wall.
Uh-huh.
Because it's always just like this high-pitched squealing voice at all times. And it's just so annoying. And okay. But anyway, I think Misa's, as a character, is great. Her portrayal of the character, horrendous.
Yeah. Because they have to, like, make it super horny whenever they can. Like, they've been together for 4 or 5 years now, and she comes popping in wearing like lingerie as they're doing police work, and she's like, I'm gonna be a good little girl and go to bed all by myself. And then, Light's just like, yeah, whatever. And all the cops are going like, doing that ultra, horny anime thing. And it's just like, what is that writing? I'll be a good girl and go to bed by myself. Like, he has her so trained and whipped that, like, his neglect is love. I don't even know if these two ever fucked. Like, it seems like...
No, they do.
He just goes like, please get away from me, and that will make me happy. Oh, okay, I'll do it. Whatever. All he has to say is, just do this thing, and that will make me happy. And she's fine with it. So I can see, because he's so smart and above it all, I could see him just being like, I'm not interested in relationships. I'm not interested in sex. She's only around because I get to use her for my own needs. Mm-hmm. I don't need to have sex with her because I will tell her it makes me happy to not have sex with you, and she would be okie dokie with that. But even like when even when Elle captures her and she's got like the binders on her eyes and stuff, like they have to make it as gross as possible. Like, oh, are you the kidnapper who's going to kill me? Oh, maybe I'll give you a kiss. And she's just like wearing practically nothing. And it's gross.
Really? I thought she was fully clothed and all that.
Oh, and maybe she's fully clothed, but the way she's bound, it's just like, oh, it pushes out my chest, and
I didn't notice that at all.
No,
I believe you.
That scene was a little raunchier than it needed to be.
But I think that makes total sense for like that's stuff. It bothered me more that they kept her like that for 50 days.
Oh yeah,
it was just like, well, that's time. Like.
Yeah.
Torture.
Yeah. And she's just kind of like...
You could just put her in an empty room and she couldn't see anybody.
Yeah. It's like, why does she have to be strapped to a table?
Yeah, strapped to a table with her eyes covered. I mean, I guess you don't know the extent of her power, so I get it. But like, that's what... If I was her, I would have been for 50 days just sitting up straight with something over my eyes. Like, I mean, I'm sure they just like let her up to use the bathroom or whatever. But it's like, it just seemed like she never left that chair. Yeah. So she's just like sitting in 50 days worth of filth. We're getting off track. Who cares? So Misa's the worst.
Yeah.
But there is a cool character there. They just squandered it with a performance I didn't care for.
So we keep saying Kira. We didn't explain it. But for those who don't know, that's what they call Light's godlike killer persona, because the whole world is confused why all these people are dropping dead, and so they all just deem whatever entity, person, whoever this is, they say Kira because it's a play on the American word for killer, which every time they said it, it just felt racist. I know it's like Japanese people would say it that way, but that sounds like a person imitating a Japanese person saying killer. So every time they said it, it was just like, ugh, I don't like that word, Kira.
I don't like that word just because of how many times they did say it.
That's drinking game. Watch this, and every time they say Kira, take a drink, especially episode 8 and on. It's just Kira this, Kira that, Kira. You'll be so drunk.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a YouTube video, but if not, I need someone to make a supercut of characters saying Kira, just so I know how many times it's been said, or some sort of Reddit Kira count. That's absurd how many times. Like like halfway through the show, I was like, oh my god, I can't hear this name anymore. It's driving me crazy. But anywho.
So, those are our main people. So we're going through, Elle's playing with him, trying to figure out what's the extent of his power. You have to be able to see or picture the person's face in your mind and have their official legal name. So if it was, Tupac and you write Tupac, it wouldn't kill him because that's not his official name. So and it's like, good thing Light was smart about not revealing his name ever in his life just for this perfect situation. And it turns out, I looked it up, his name is Elle. His first name is just Elle. It's like Elle Eldritch. It's like Elle something.
I never looked it up. So his birth name is just Elle.
Is Elle. That's all. Have it as Elle. So he's killing people. L's on his tail.
They, at a certain point, Light does this thing where they're like trading death notes, and it's basically just to erase him and Misa's memory. So
Yeah, because you could give it up and renounce it. You lose all memory of ever being involved with it.
yeah,
But then if you touch it again, you get all your memories back. So he does this weird convoluted shell game of I give this to you, you give it back to me, and I didn't really quite follow that. I just know, he's a super genius. He knows what he's talking about.
yeah, it was. I think it could have been a thing too, where it's just like if he's touching if he was touching his death note, his memory would come back. But as soon as he lets go of it, he would lose his memory again.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if he took Misa's death note, he would get his memories back, and he wouldn't lose them. So,
Yeah.
I think they traded death notes. So, well, it doesn't. I don't. Yes, it's all.
It doesn't matter. It's
but,
all to get it back at some point.
So that allowed him to like avoid suspicion because well, I've been in here for 50 days. People have still been dying, and you've seen me. There's no way I could have killed these people.
Yeah.
And of course, Al is still like, well,
Mm.
it's enough for me to let you go, but I still think you did it somehow.
Yeah.
And then eventually, he through his super genius is able to kill L.
Yeah. Well, and not even him. It was Rem that killed L.
Oh well, yes.
Yeah, Rem realized if L continues and his right hand man, I can't remember his name, Hitachi something, the older man.
The old man.
Yeah,
yeah, I forget his name.
Whatever. Like
is Alfred.
Yes, pretty much. That Rem would have to kill them because Misa's life would be in danger. Which I understand her affection for Misa, but like, why? I can understand her first death god being just like, this girl's so pretty. I just want her to live and have a happy life. I'm actually in love with her. But if her and Rim had a better relationship where Rim liked the ideology of what Misa brought to the table, and like this person could actually do things I never thought any human would do. I need to make sure she stays alive. I have to do it. But she just like, yeah, I got to do it because we got to move the plot on.
And this is where you needed a just Misa episode.
Yeah.
With her meeting Rem for the first time and them interacting. And then like you could establish in probably 22 minutes, but if this was like a live action thing, in a 44-minute episode to an hour long episode, you could totally establish their entire all the information you needed to go like, okay, I see why Rem is fully on board for Misa. But you get none of that.
No. And I would think for Rem, like Rem hates Light, and all Misa wants to do is help Light. So why even bother saving her if it's helping? It's like a reverse enemy of my enemy is my friend, you know? It's like the friend of my friend is my enemy. That doesn't work.
It's kind of like
her motivation just seemed off.
Yeah, or I say it's kind of like that parent that knows their daughter is dating a piece of shit, but it's like if I tell her not to see him, they're just gonna see each other more, but and in secret and that kind of thing. So I was like, I gotta let this chick make her own mistake or whatever. And when she comes back crying, I'll be here
to comfort her.
To comfort her, that kind of thing. But there's a little bit more at stake here than just dating a asshole.
Yeah. Well, one of the bigger, earlier sort of gotcha cat and mouse moments that we need to talk about is the potato chips. So Ryu lets Light know the cops have put hidden cameras everywhere. I've counted X amount. They're trying to figure out who it is because we think it's someone who is related to police, and we had the police following the family members, and then they all started dying. So it's got to be one of them, which I did enjoy that whole bus scene of him, making the, giving himself an alibi, for that cop. So that was really good. So his plan is, L's plan is we're going to broadcast the name of certain killers on TV. And so when we view Light watching it and then they end up dying, we'll see how he does it. Well, since, Light's ahead of him, he's going to not watch TV. He's going to just do homework during that time, and then that guy's going to still die. How is he going to make that happen? He's going to put a miniature TV and the death note inside a bag of potato chips. So when he reaches in, it looks like he's just grabbing a chip, but he's actually watching TV out of the corner of his eye and writing it down and then eating the chip. And that's a fine enough premise. You're hiding your means of killing. But it's a fresh bag of potato chips. opens it. It was sealed. How the fuck does he do that? And if he sealed it on his own, they're watching him the whole time. He couldn't do that. They would have seen it. So how does this happen? And I guess this is an anime thing. Who cares? Doesn't have to really make sense. But this is so fucking dumb that someone needs to explain it. Like, did he know so far in advance that he traveled to the fucking potato chip company and put it in that specific bag because he knew the routing and it would end up on his shelf? And so I was waiting for like L to come back and be like, oh, well, I knew he put that in a bag of potato chips because the family only eats sour cream and onion and they were barbecue, something, but it's never brought up again. It's like, no, he just was able to get a TV and the Death Note in the chips.
Yeah, I think it was just I think that's just a movie TV story. Like,
is that supposed to be clever?
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to be a clever idea, but the execution doesn't matter.
Real stupid. Real bad.
That didn't really bother me all that much. But real quick, because we kind of skipped over them, I want to give a little shout out to the task force.
Okay.
Because I like all those characters. Yeah. I wish they all got more time to shine. I think they all had their moments.
Mm-hmm. Especially the one, who's like Misa's manager at one point. Like, he gets more time than anyone else.
Especially at the end.
Yeah.
Matsudo, I think, the younger one, who was always like really with the chief and like kind of the closest secondary friend to Light, I guess. I liked his spunky attitude, but I disliked his like interest in Misa, that kind of stuff. Or not even Misa. It's like there was a scene where they go to Light's family and it's like his little sister who was like young. He was like, "Oh wow, you really grew up, didn't you?" And just like, "Oh man, you wouldn't date a cop." Like, I was just like, "Ew, dude, like, don't say that." Yeah, it's like, she's like 18 or 19 now, sure, but like, aren't you like? It doesn't matter how old he is. My point is,
I hated that episode so much.
It just seemed creepy.
We needed to age her up so we can, objectify her and look how hot she is, and then put her into the dire situation and try to save her, and then she disappears from the show again. It's just like, and I understand if they're like, you know what, this show needs more women. It's just full of dudes. Let's do it. But then they're just there for being objectified
women
and put
in
in a situation. Yeah, exactly.
But aside from that hiccup, I like that task force, and I like the dude who was just like willing to go like, you know what, L is kind of suspicious, and that one dude who's like, no, what, I am going to leave the task force because I have a family and I love my family. Like, all that stuff is great. Like, I think. And Light's dad, I really enjoyed. I mean, he's sort of your more typical, like, I'm the police chief, I'm going to do everything. But, like, he even had his badass moments. He got the fucking Shinigami eyes. Like, I think that's a cool concept. Like, his dad was willing to, like, sacrifice half his life to catch the ultimate bad guy. It turns out to be his son.
But just happens at the time, Light didn't have his memory, so he couldn't tell.
And he died happy. And I think, like, that kind of stuff, like, that's good character work, I think. It's just like his dad was able to die happy knowing his son was innocent, even though he really wasn't. I think there's some fun stuff there. Like, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the task force because I have, other than a scene or two of Matsudo, I liked all those characters, and I wish they had more screen time.
They all serve their purpose, mainly to die, but I did like them all too. But his dad is in a building with Mello, and it blows up, and it scars Mello, and it's like, oh shit, he died. And then cut to the hospital where he dies. Just let him die in the building. Why did we I know we did it so he could like have that moment with his son, but then don't blow up the building. Do something else. He falls out of the building and hurts himself really bad.
Or the explosion shoots him out of a window.
Sure. That's fine.
But it's like, it just seemed like the bomb was like, it was in the room,
he
right?
was right there. And then he was just fine. It was whatever. Yeah. So Light has given up the Death Note. He's tried to prove to L, look, I've been in prison this whole time. We can't be the killers. And so they have to let him go. And then L's just like, well, it's a good thing we spent, $1 trillion on a brand new building specifically for this case. And then just cut to they're in a huge skyrise. They have all these funds. Like, I know he's a genius or whatever, but like, is someone else paying for this? They're throwing a ton of money at this case, and they've gone nowhere for years. And everybody just goes off the word of, he's the best in the biz.
Mm-hmm.
So they give him a whole fucking building for his small task force that he eventually like
Well, I think
pretty much fires.
I think L's the one who paid for it.
You think? Oh, is he rich enough?
Well, either L pay or like the old man. It was just like because
Okay.
there's like they have that facility for like the best and brightest orphans
Yeah,
in
what
the
was
world.
that place called? Like the Mundies or
I forget.
Fundies? It was a real dumb name.
But
Putties?
the point is just like there was unlimited funding from some
Okay.
whether it was that old man or someone in that family or whatever.
But they
like,
went from like
it was-
hotel room to entire skyscraper for
Yeah.
themselves.
It's like, but I also didn't understand why they needed an entire skyscraper because it always just seemed like they were in the same room.
Yeah, it's just one room. Give them
Yeah.
a floor.
I mean, Misa had her own floor. But
sure.
It's just like, okay, so it's like, even if all these dudes have their own floor, there's still like 30 floors that aren't being utilized.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this building for?
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
But so yeah, the Death Note has now been given to Rim, who has been instructed to give it to someone else to keep Kira's legend going, but he's a corporate guy, and him and all these other corporate heads are making decisions on who to kill and when. And so, the pattern's changing up and L can't make heads or tails of it.
Another fun idea, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Giving the Death Note to other people and how they experience it is the best thing. I just don't want L following that person. I really want to see like a dumbass dude and a nobody cop figuring this out. Not the brightest in the world.
Or even if it was a genius and a cop, it was just kind of like a Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt. I was like, Brad Pitt wasn't the smartest guy. Morgan Freeman was kind of learned or whatever, but like maybe a little bit smarter than Morgan Freeman in Seven. But like that dynamic of just like young and dumb and like super wise and like they're teaming up to like take down somebody like the odd couple that takes down the ultimate evil. Like you could do something like that, but it's just like, nope, we're two weird geniuses.
This would be a great David Fincher movie. Yeah.
Ben, let me.
I'm sorry. Hey, you brought up Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman.
I know.
Okay,
God
that's your fault.
Okay, we'll get to it. We'll get to
it. One little thing I think would have been creative to do was, so Light does not believe he's Kira. He's doing everything to convince L, and L's believing it for the most part. But Light had a piece of the notebook in his wallet, and I was hoping there would be a time where they're palling around. Hey, can I get something out of the vending machine for you? Like, oh, let me pay. And he tosses him his wallet, and L touches the page, and then the Shinigami shows up to him, and he's like, oh fuck, I know how it's going, but I have to play it cool. And so now Light doesn't have the powers and L does, but L's still trying to pin it on, trying to figure out who the real killer is. But having Ryuk not playing ball with him as well, it would have been I would like to see them have a conversation, because eventually at some point, like, everybody touches it and everybody can see him, but nobody ever stops to have like an interesting conversation with him. They're all just like, check out this weirdo.
Yeah, there's the initial shock of like, oh, there's a monster over there, and then everyone's just like, no, that's just Shinigami. Like, oh, okay.
I really like that shot when he does get it and he's looking through the windshield and it's like a crime scene, and it's Ryuk is just standing, or was it Rem? I can't remember. One of them is just standing in the crowd. The realization that that's a real thing. I really like that scene. It was fun. Oh yeah, L's so cool. He could just figure out how to fly a helicopter. He just he even says something like, you just kind of figure it out. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy, why does he have to be able to do everything? Just have someone else fly the fucking helicopter. Why does L have to do it?
Yeah. And
so cool.
Now that, speaking of just like being good at stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I'm also interested as to like what his L's workout routine is.
Oh yeah, because he can kick ass.
Because he can kick ass, and he's just like, they talk, like him and L kind of get into the occasional like little, I'll punch you once or twice, back and forth.
They all always do an equal amount of damage to each other.
Yeah. And L even says like, I'm stronger than I look, and it's like, okay, but like, when do you work out? Because like that, like sitting like Gollum on the couch or whatever all day for 14 hours,
stuffing your face with candy
can't be good for you, like physically, to be in that position. It's like you're not doing push-ups. It's like, well, we saw he's good at tennis, but like, when the fuck is he practicing tennis? Like, what is this guy's like free time like? Because it seems like the only thing he ever thinks or cares about is whatever case he's working on. So that part I found a little absurd, but whatever. He can just be good stuff.
Yeah. And they kill him, and then Rim kills him, and he's just dead. And I will give it the show props for being able to take the second lead, a fan favorite character, and just going, nope, he's dead now.
Yeah,
moving on.
And not even like a grand death, not like
nope.
Light going like, haha, I've won, I've defeated you.
Yeah.
And so
he gives him a little look as he's dying.
Sure, but it's so tiny.
Yeah. He doesn't get a chance to say like,
it's not the finale where he's like, haha, you know, that we'll get to that in a minute.
He wants Elle to be like, how the fuck are you doing this? Okay, all cards on the table, what's going on? But by then he does know, and then it's just a heart attack, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's done. Like, you really want them to have that big final confrontation.
Yeah. But that's where I give the show credit, where it was just like, it doesn't go for spectacle because the story dictates that this is how it would go down. So respect for that.
Yeah. But yeah, then they just replace him with another Elle, a worse Elle. Like, I don't like Mello. I think he's an ugly design. I thought it was a woman at first. I didn't realize it was a dude, and the voice does not match the design. Don't like Mello. Don't like Nier. Really don't like Nier.
Yeah, I really don't like Nier. Mello, I don't think really had the opportunity to shine.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you had like a flashback episode, you eliminate Nier and you just have Mello and Elle growing up together, and then Elle went off and became this huge success, and Mello kind of stayed back at the orphanage. And then when Elle died, it's like, okay, we were rivals. You defeated my rival, I'm going to defeat you now, kind of thing. And it's just like, you could have had Mello, and because Mello's like the complete opposite of Elle, that could have been fun versus just like, here's another Elle.
Yeah.
He's just called Nier now.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a bunch of animes that do like the weird bowl cut hair or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a weird choice.
Yeah.
I get from a design perspective, it just looks different from everybody else.
Sure.
But yeah, I didn't mind Mello. You seem to have bigger problems with him than I did. But
yeah, just underdeveloped and not a fan. Yeah, so now he's got a new Elle. Let's do it all again. You know, just quicker. We didn't need any of this. And, you know, both movies ignore all this.
Of course.
I don't remember how the Japanese one truly ends, but like the American one is very different. And we'll get into that later. And really the big thing there is, you know, someone else has the death note, and the whole plot is, I love it, like, it's like the second to last episode, both of them come on screen, you know, having their mind shouting matches, and they're both like, I know exactly how this is going to happen, and you are going to end this now. And it's like, oh, who's ahead of who? And what did Nier do? Like, replace all the pages with just regular notebook pages?
Yeah, so well, real quick, a character I did like in the second, or I'm just gonna call it the second half was the news reporter lady. I thought she was a fun addition, like as kind of like a antithesis to Misa, as she was like mature and smart, but like a loyal follower and was willing to do it, and like they had a connection from the past because they used to date or whatever. It's like I liked her character and how he was just like immediately killed her when he didn't need her anymore. Like that stuff was like cold blooded. I liked it. So shout out to her real quick. But yeah, so he gets another follower, and I think his name's Mickey Maki or whatever. So I apologize if that's not the proper.
I think it's pronounced Mickey Mouse.
Oh, Mickey Mouse. Okay, he gets into Mickey Mouse, and he's just on just a killing spree every day. He's very methodical. Every day he does the same thing over and over and over again.
But he really has no objective of his own. He's just kind of following orders.
He's just following L's orders, or Light's orders. God damn it. He's following Light's orders, even though he doesn't know who Light is yet. But there's one day where he gets his next mission, and he deviates from his normal routine. Nier has already suspected him. They follow him to his bank where he keeps the death note in a lockbox. So Nier takes those pages and completely replaces all of them with
perfect, forgeries of his handwriting.
Because he's got a guy who does forgeries. Of course. And Light thought he won because like, oh well, have replaced or like he would have replaced the last couple, whatever it was.
Yeah, I counted it out, so you would replace these ones,
Yeah.
but then we would be past them by now. But ha ha ha.
But Light never anticipated that he would follow him to the bank where
Mm-hmm.
he keeps the death note and all that stuff. So it was just a slight miscalculation on Light's part that
Mm-hmm.
led to his utter defeat.
Yeah, I do like, it's like, oh, in 3 seconds, everyone's gonna die, and then he's just like, ha ha ha, I finally won. And it's like, if he just would have stayed quiet, maybe he could have gotten
That
away
joke,
with
it's
it.
like you did that. You stayed quiet for your ultimate villain,
Yeah.
L, and you just make sure,
Yeah,
like,
just double check.
because even if they like have the heart attack, they're not gonna like die instantly, and you can't say it's like if you start seeing them wobble or you see like one guy go down,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, okay. Then you just kind of like give a smile or just like
Mhm.
gotcha, but
Yeah.
you say it when you see them about to hit the pavement.
Yeah, not when there's 2 seconds left.
Yeah.
But then I like that. What's his name on the task force? Is
Yeah, I
like,
think it was Matsuda.
yeah, totally shocked. Like, how fucking dare you? We followed you this whole time, and you're Kira. Fuck you! And just starts shooting them, and just he shoots him a couple of times, right?
Well, he starts doing his like he's obviously very upset, but it's like he pulls out the page from his watch, which I thought was real cool, and it's just like he's got a page, and it's like it's the equivalent of just like the dude doesn't have a gun, but he's got a gun.
Yeah, I'm just reaching for my wallet.
Yeah, there's just Matsudo just unloads on him, which I thought was like,
which is like the only blood in this show,
pretty
too.
much, yeah.
Yeah, and then he turns into like an absolute whining, pathetic person, just like, it's a trick. No, I like that he's just
so pathetic in his
pathetic and has no place to go. So he's just pulling anything out of his ass to try to save himself, and drags his body to some stairs and says, "Hey, Ryuk, put me in your book." And Ryuk's like, "Okay, bye." Like no care, no love for this guy. Just like, all right, we're done, moving on.
Yeah, and I mean that's why I liked Ryuk stuck to his guns the whole time. It's like I told you from episode 1. At the end of this, I'm putting your name in the book, and he does.
Yeah.
I looked it up. In the comic, it's a little different.
Oh.
In the comic, I mean that still does happen, but in the comic, is the last sort of like line of defense. Light begs Ryuk to kill everyone in the room, but Ryuk refuses. He's like, "That's not how we're doing this," and then he kills Light.
Okay.
So, as opposed to just him going like, "All right, well, Light can't get away now. Goodbye."
And so Misa is never caught as or implicated in any way. We don't really get a wrap up with her as it goes.
Weird choice, but
yeah,
okay.
as it goes to like final credits, we just see her like standing on a bridge looking forlorn. I'm assuming she would kill herself for the love of her life.
I think that's what's supposed to be implied, but since you don't quite know, oh, maybe she's just like looking off in the distance, like thinking about him, kind of thing.
We didn't talk about the Shinigami eyes. What a stupid asshole. Your problem would have been solved many times if you just would have taken the eyes. Oh, it takes half your life. Who cares? If you do this thing, you can achieve your goal, and it doesn't matter. It won't take you a long time. You can do it within what you have left. Obviously, you don't know, and it could go from like 8 weeks to 4 weeks, sure, whatever. But so much of the bullshit could have been handled if he just would have taken the eyes. Sure,
but that's how many shows and movies do you watch? It's like, oh, all of our problems could have been solved. You just did this one obvious thing. It's just like, but I'm fine with that because if I had that power, I don't know if I would take the eyes. It's like, okay, like maybe if it's like, oh, if I'm going to prison or I get the eyes, maybe I just take the eyes. And that's what the businessman did. He's like, oh, fuck, if I don't do this now, it's over. So I like that. But like God damn it, Light always thought he was ahead for the most part, or he could get out of it.
He could figure it out
and
somehow.
It's like, yeah, I'm just giving up half my life for a situation I'll probably get out of. Then it's not really worth it. So I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me.
If it's me, I probably am not going to take the eyes just because the people I want to kill, I know who they are, and I don't have a super genius detective on my ass. But the moment I do, who's specifically hiding their identity, and then I get to see their identity and I can figure out their name, I'm doing it then. But like myself right now, no, I probably wouldn't because I don't really have a need for it. I know the names and faces of the people who need to die. Um,
We might have to cut this too.
so I was worried because in the Simpsons episode, Lisa kills the Shinigami, and then she turns into one herself. And I was like, oh, is that the end of this? Is that the punishment of the more names you put in, once you reach a quota, then you have to take over this job, and that's why death gods bring them to earth, because then they're free once you take over. I don't have to do this job anymore. So I was kind of like bummed the whole time, like I know how this is going to end, and it was nothing like that. That was just a Simpsons thing. So I was very happy. But I think that's a kind of a cool concept.
Yeah, there's definitely like that, because that was my whole thing, because we don't really know that much about Shinigami culture. It's like, are they just created by the devil, or are God their own entities?
Yeah, because they do say like you don't go to heaven if you use the death note. So there is a heaven. It's not just like
it says you don't go to heaven or hell.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, so if the Shinigami world isn't heaven or hell, it's like the in between world. Is that where you go?
Yeah.
Because if like Light, that could have been a fun like epilogue. Is like Light dies and then he wakes up and he's just in the Shinigami world. Not necessarily that he becomes a Shinigami, but he's just like now stuck into the nothingness and just sits around with a bunch of dudes who just gamble all the time. And you're just like, think he's just a dumb piece of shit. And it's like, that's his sort of punishment for eternity, is like, I'm stuck in the Shinigami world where I have no power and everyone just thinks I'm a fucking loser.
Smartest guy on the planet, but I have no one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been good. So would you use it? This drops in front of you. You pick it up. He explains everything. Would you use it?
No.
Would you give it up? Or would you just hold on to it so no one else uses it?
I think, well, I guess the problem is like because I mean, I guess you can touch it if you use it. So never mind. I think I would do what I could to destroy it or hide it, or just make sure it never dropped it at the bottom of the ocean, something. Just make sure it never, because I don't think anyone should have that much power. And I think, should I use it, it could easily be like, even if I think I'm making the right choice, you're never 100% sure if you are.
Yeah.
Because you're not sure of the like long-term butterfly ripple effect of it all. So it's just like, if this fell into the wrong hand, like even if I'm the right hands, I know it could fall into the wrong hands. I'd probably do my best to just get rid of it entirely, because I think it's a nuclear bomb that can't be traced back to you, kind of thing, for the most part.
It's something you wrap in barbed wire or dip in cement, put in lead, and then drop it in the Mariana Trench, so no one could get access to it.
Yeah. So I think that's what I would attempt to do. But I think you would just...
I would absolutely use it. 100%. There are some awful fucking people out there. Now, I don't think I would be petty and do the people that bug me. I'm thinking like big picture assholes who need to die. And especially the fact that you get to choose how they die makes me want to use it even more. Like, no, I want this person to go on stage, shit themselves, eat their shit, and that's how they die. They choke on their shit on live TV. Donald Trump dies by choking on his own shit.
Cut that.
I'm absolutely using the death note. I'm not going to go crazy. Hopefully, I probably would.
You would definitely be like, that whoever politician I don't like, tiger eats their genitals or something.
Yeah. It's like they're in DC. How is that going to happen? And just
escaped a tiger from the DC zoo escaped and mangled a politician's genitals.
Absolutely, I would 100% use it, and I would probably brag about it, and I'd probably get caught. I'd use it to impress like a woman or something, and just like do something stupid, just like, who's the person that you hate the most? And like, how do you want him to die? Show it off, and then be like, oh, Ben, you're so cool, you're like a god. And I'm like, I know. And then it would and then it would go to my head, and then I'm light but just not as smart.
And that's why I would get rid of it, because
you're also a better person than me, Steve. I don't have any love for I have there's no sacred of life for me. You care about more the human race more than I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I recognize the fault in my gods here, but
Hmm.
yeah, I just don't think I should be the harbinger of life and death in this
Yeah.
world. So
Yeah.
I'm not smart or qualified enough to even attempt to quantify that.
So I found a YouTube video because after watching this, I needed to watch as many like videos of other people's opinions and especially like the American remake. I rewatched like Chris Stuckman's review on that and see what he thought. So just looking up Death Note and seeing like, oh, what's L's real name and what's this and what's that. I was just like curious of different things. So I found a video by Seth, the programmer, on YouTube, and he asked the question: could Batman solve the Kira case? And he has some good points. And I wanted to get your opinion. Do you think if Light started doing his thing like he normally would, and Batman, obviously doesn't work with the cops. He work,
Yeah.
he works on his own, and he's doing his own research, and he has his own technology, and he has his own knowledge. Do you think he could have figured out who this was?
Uh, Now it depends on sort of what realm of Batman you're dealing with, because like if it's a Batman who's fought Darkseid and like has traveled planets and like interacted with Constantine and
Mm-hmm.
magic and all that stuff, it's just like yeah, he might be like, okay, there's something clearly
Yeah,
extraterrestrial or mystical about these events.
sure.
Or if it's kind of like more of a Christopher Nolan sort of Batman, which is like everything's sort of based in reality, and then here's just
Mm-hmm.
this one thing that
Yeah,
isn't. I could see that being a more of a struggle for him. But I'd say in general, I think Batman would be the most qualified to solve this,
yeah,
only because one, he's got unlimited money, and let's say Elle does too. Fine.
sure.
Um,
They both
he
keep their name and face hidden.
Yep, keep their name and face hidden. They're both genius detectives. Okay, so they are the same there.
Yeah,
So
willing to
what?
work outside the law.
But once though, that's where they differentiate. It's like L might be able to like break a few rules, but he's
Mm-hmm.
never going to do anything like drastic.
He was
Where
willing to kill people to test the 13 days rule on it. He's like, I'm going to put someone's name, and if I die after not doing it for 13 days. So he's willing to kill people for this, while everybody else was like, I don't think
I
so.
wasn't sure if I really believe. I thought that was just something they talked about, but not something they really like
He
put
seemed
on.
pretty gung ho
But
for
hey,
it.
my point is, I think Batman, because of how he works outside of the law. It's like, yeah, he has got connections to the police force, but he's willing to like break criminals' bones to get answers, and like has all the spy. Like I think he would just be more qualified than L in just about every way, even though they are very similar. Um, but I think that's where I would give the edge to Batman.
Yeah, I
Um,
think, and also, even though Light is a genius, he is just a high school, college student. I think Batman's probably smarter than him.
yeah,
Yeah, I would give it to Batman. But what about like Sherlock Holmes? And it depends on which one you have. If
sure.
you take Robert Downey Jr., he's probably not believing in magic. I don't think any of them really
No, no,
would.
no. They're all men
The
of science.
man of science. So I think they would have a bigger problem figuring this out because
Sure.
the answer is supernatural and magic, whereas everything that's presented as supernatural magic to them is generally a practical thing that they're able to figure out, and that's the fun thing about Sherlock Holmes. He could always figure out whatever it is,
Yeah.
but could he come to terms with this is an actual magical thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're I feel like when it comes to like someone like a Sherlock's villain Moriarty, like I think Sherlock is he does lose at
Mm-hmm.
times. Like there is someone out there who's smarter than him, or he just like gets luckier, or he is like through a series of events is like okay, I'm able to beat him, but it cost me this or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think Sherlock in his mind would be like no matter what evidence is presented to him, he's like it can't be magic can't be real.
Yeah.
So I think he would just be stuck. Like Sherlock seems like the type of person who would be stuck in his ways, where like I think Batman, like there's people who are just like if all things logical don't seem right, we have to consider the illogical, and I just don't think that's in Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
In
And plus
brain.
he's out there like, I'm Sherlock Holmes and I'm gonna solve the case. He'd be dead instantly because he doesn't have like a secret identity.
Sure, yeah.
So he's done. I was trying to think of other like famous detectives like Poirot. Yeah, he's dead. He's not figuring this out.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I thought was a cool little detail in Death Note that we glossed over was the top 3 detectives in the world were all
All him.
L. That he just had aliases. I was like, that's awesome. That's a great. That's a great cover.
He's so fucking good. He's other great detectives. That's so funny.
Yeah.
And it seems like this is going to be like the next like arc. It's just, oh no, there's other detectives on the case. And like, oh, okay, that'll be interesting. Oh no, don't worry about that. I'm all those detectives. Next, moving on with the story. And I like that they brought those 2 like Americans in. Like, oh, she's a hacker and
he's a con man.
He's a con man. And then when eventually Elle's gone, Light's just like, nope, and you're dead, and you're dead. And it's like, there's no love for some of these characters. He's just willing to off out anybody.
Yeah. Do you have anything?
Those are all my notes. I can't believe I went through all of it. There's a lot of little things that I could have gone episode by episode and written down every little thing.
Well, I'm glad you had all those notes because it definitely helped.
I forgot some of those stuff. But I would say all in all, I don't like this show. Okay. But I love the concept.
Okay.
It's a really good idea that I think is just kind of up the anime ass of you're the best, you're the smartest, you're the coolest, you're the bravest. Like everybody's like the heightened version of themselves. If you're a dork, you're the super dork. If you're a hornball, you're a super hornball. If you're a genius, you're a super genius. And it's not relatable at all. And that's why I like the American remake. It's gorier. I was surprised how gory. I don't remember it. Like you see blood and guts and heads flying off. It's very different than I expected. And Light's not a genius. And Misa she goes by Mia in it. She's the gung-ho one. She's like, we are going to change this world, and is willing to like throw Light to the wolves so she can continue being Kira. She's a much better character. She's the one that gets like super corrupted. He's having fun with it because this whole Death Note has gotten her attention, and they're doing it together. And so he's kind of in love with her and love what they're doing. And she is as well, but she will drop him for the greater good. I don't think they cast well. He's like this terrible Aaron Taylor Johnson knockoff. And because he has this weird bleach hair, he kind of looks like Quicksilver at times. So I don't think he's great. She's good. She was in Leftovers.
Yeah.
I was looking
at Margaret Qualley.
Was it?
Yeah, it's Margaret Qualley, I think.
Yeah. I was like, oh, she looks, I know who that is. And then Elle, good casting for the wrong movie. I would like to see Lakeith Stanfield as Elle, but not as anime Elle, because he still does the weird sitting thing. He does the weird holding the phone. He's eating candy all the time. He's a little more aggressive, making more of a mess when he goes for the candy, spilling it everywhere. He's not as methodical. But I think with a different script and a different take on this, and not having to try to be,
if it was a different movie entirely.
Well, it's like instead of trying to make a carbon copy of these anime characters, let's take the idea of a really good detective hunting down this person with a death note. That's a good role for him, but doing all the quirky stuff as well, I don't think works. I think the live action American remake is a nice retelling of it. It's different enough. They don't do the fucking potato chip thing.
Really hard for that potato chip thing. That wasn't really that big of a plot point.
It isn't. And it's so minor and stupid that it needs to be rewritten to make more sense. There's no reason for that to be there. I mean, I understand the reason it's there. You just need to make it more logical. But I really enjoyed it. They changed things, like he doesn't have his mom or his sister. It's just him and his dad. And that's one of the things of like, I want to punish the man that killed my mom. And that's one of the first people that he kills. And when I think in that one you have to say how they die. And it has more rules. He's like, man, rule 98 says this. There's a ton of rules in the death note. And like if you write someone's name, but you rip out the page and you burn it before they die, you will spare them. There's like other things. And it's interesting plot points to use. So I'm glad that they like expanded it and simplified it at the same time. Ryuk looks great. They have a guy in a practical costume for a lot of it, but he's in shadow, and then they do CG face stuff, and amazing looking. And the director of this did The Guest. He did You're Next, and there was another more recent one.
Was it the Godzilla? Didn't you tell me it was Godzilla something?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, maybe. Oh, Kong versus Godzilla. I think he did Kong versus Godzilla. Yeah, it's only got a 4.5. I think that's not right. It's Adam Wingard who did Kong versus Godzilla. He did some VHS. He did Your Next, The Guest. He did the Blair Witch reboot. He did some ABCs of Death. He's an excellent director. I've liked everything he's done.
Yeah.
Kong versus Godzilla. It's another one of those like, oh, let's give Kevin Trevorrow. What's his name? Trevor? No. Trevorrow. That's
Trevorrow, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he made a small movie. Let's give him a big franchise. Oh, you made Your Next? You made The Guest? That movie that should be awful, but it's actually really, really good.
The Guest is pretty badass.
The Guest is great. Let's give him Godzilla versus Kong. So I think he's a good director, and I know people are going to look at this movie as like the bad thing that he's done, but it's really well made. It's beautifully shot. There's a lot of like Ryuk in the background, and you could just see the silhouette, and then like the lights of his eyes shine up like a cat in a bushes at night.
Yeah.
Just some really good stuff. It gets a little convoluted at the end where like, oh, well, I wrote your name in the death note and I'm betraying you, but I already wrote it first, and I'm going to make the Ferris wheel on the pier fall, and then the note's going to fall in the fire. It's like, it's a little much, especially when most of the stuff in the beginning is just like car accident, jumps off a building. I think it's great that they incorporate Mia as a bigger part of it. She can't see Ryuk, but she can still write in the thing. So there are a little bit of differences there. So I think they get most of it right. I enjoyed it. And if we're gonna, I hear there's gonna be a Death Note TV show, like an American one. I guess
really?
there is a Japanese live action TV show. So I can see this being something. I just don't want it to be the same thing.
Well, Ben, it's a good thing I'm here.
Okay, give me something, Steve.
Because you mentioned earlier David Fincher, and this is why we're best friends. Because as I was watching the show, the whole time I was thinking, you could easily rework this to be a David Fincher Mindhunter-esque show, but with a magical supernatural element to it. And the problem is you can never do this story without it just being Death Note. In terms of just like, you can't do a story where it's like, oh, well, there's a guy who has a book that when he writes names in it's well, that's Death Note. They've done Death Note. It's like, you can't call it something else because it'd just be Death Note. So you can only, it's the Jurassic Park thing. It's like, yeah, we could make other dinosaur movies, but
everyone's going to think
it's just Jurassic Park. Yeah. So we can only make Jurassic Park movies.
Sure. Yeah.
It'd be that thing.
Yeah. You would have to change the methods. Like, oh, it's a Twitter account that you put a name, wait, that's a Black Mirror episode, actually. Never mind.
Sure.
I mean, you probably could, but it would boil down to, this is just Death Note.
Yeah. Because Death Note did it first, did it well for the most part. And so it is what it is. My pitch for a live-action Death Note is you do a...
Movie or show? I'm sorry.
It's a show. Okay. I'm sorry. Don't do movie. Because you got to tell this whole story. So I think what you do is you can... First, you get rid of the Ryuk stuff. Like,
I thought of that, too.
So you can still do nods to that and go... Like, the person who... is the Kira character. Maybe you see them, maybe you don't. Maybe you just see them writing in a book, but you don't see their face. So that adds to the mystery of the show because you're trying, like, you're going from the L perspective. Not necessarily that your character has to be L, but it's just like a smart detective who's on the case. and you can do hints to Ryuk in terms of just like maybe the killer calls himself like, when he's writing notes to police. You're gonna do it like Zodiac,
Yeah.
the movie Zodiac, but in TV form. And it's just like
It's Zodiac in 7.
It's Zodiac in 7.
That's
yes.
all.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Zodiac from the cost perspective is like that is
yes,
idiot.
And you can have like he writes notes to the police. Is like I am the Shinigami, I am the god of death, or whatever. Like you can do like that kind of stuff. Or if you want to do Ryuk, I think you don't know if he's real or not. It's not about like, oh, if you touch, you can see it. It's just like when you meet the killer, maybe in his mind, he sees some sort of devilish creature. It doesn't have to talk. It's just a shadowy figure like the fucking Babadook or something that just sits in the shadows.
It's a Son of Sam thing where it's like the dog told me to kill these people.
Yeah. And so you could still have that element to it, but it doesn't rely on it. So the only thing that's mystical or the only thing that's really supernatural is this book that you never explain where it comes from, how they got it. It can be destroyed, and that's probably where the series ends. It's like the detective stops the killer, has the book. It's like, do I become now? I have this power. What do I do with it? And he burns it or something, or just destroys it.
Can I just throw? I know this is your pitch. Can I just throw something in?
Throw something at me.
So, if you wanted to get rid of the Ryuk character, just make the book talk to him. You could have a thing where it's like, oh, I see rules 1, 7, 14. Where's the rest of them? But then he could like be like, I wonder if this, or he talks to it and it would talk back in either presenting the rules that like he asked the right question and so the proper rule shows up, or it just like looks like the Necronomicon and it has like a skin face on it and and it just talks directly to him. You don't need the thing over his shoulder. Just have the book be like, hey, open me up and write in me, baby.
Yeah, or even if it doesn't necessarily talk to him, but there's scenes where you see the killer and he's just talking to, it seems like he's talking to someone, but clearly he's in an empty room, and it's like, oh, is Ryu going to show up kind of thing? Because like, are they going to go that route? It's like, maybe it's just in his head. You're never actually sure if Ryuk's there, because from the get-go, Ryuk is real. The Shinigamis are real. But like in this live action show, you don't play any of that.
Do we know that the book is of the real killer? Like it is a mystical thing, or do we just see him writing in it and we're supposed to assume he's going out and doing these killings?
I think because there's no way to avoid, like, how is this killer who doesn't ever seem to be at a crime scene kill all these people? Like, I think you can see him. You're gonna call the show Death Note, and you're just gonna change the story a lot.
Okay.
So I think you kind of go like, well, there's no point in hiding it. So you're just going to see him writing it. That's from the get-go that the killer has a book, but you don't go, it's not about, you can have the cat and mouse sort of game thing, but it's not necessarily about I mean, you can have that twist, like the killer, Kira, we'll call him, is on the police task force with your main hero, and it's there back and forth, but it's like, my problem with the show is just like, oh, well, who's the only person who can outsmart L in the world who's also the killer? Well, it's Light. So it's like, is it really just going to be the smartest guy who's also on the team? Yeah. Or is it going to be like, oh, which of these dumb people who's actually super genius is pretending to be dumb in order to have, like, you do that kind of thing. Like, there's so many routes. It's like, and then, you have your detective. There's one season where it's like, oh, well, now there's a cult of Kira developing, and you go after the cult and see what their connection is. It's like, at the end of season 1, you find out there's a second killer, and you find out there's a second Death Note out there, and that's where Misa comes in. And so you just have like a 3 to 5 season arc kind of thing where it's like you explore different avenues to get to the real killer of it all, and you just eliminate a lot of the bullshit. You never bring in a second detective, or like, even if your main character dies, at least bring in a second. I don't know, like, there's different ways you could go about it, or even like there's some realms where like that could be an interesting take, where it's like, oh, your Ned Stark character dies at the end of season 2. It's like, well, who's going to go after Kira now? Well, here's this new detective. Don't make him Nier necessarily, but you just make it a very interesting, like, mystery detective story where they're trying to find the only magical item in the world that has this ability to kill, and now this person has followers and can develop
I wish they went into more cult stuff.
You could do a ton of stuff with this. Or maybe at the end of one season you don't expect it, but he comes out and it's like, yeah, this is my real name. I am the leader of the cult of Kira or whatever. It's like, I'm so powerful, I can tell my name and no one's gonna stop me because I own the 2 Death Notes or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
and if they don't know the exact rules of, from being super geniuses of knowing the face and the name thing, he could come out and say, I can kill any one of you at any time. Because, hey, in this, maybe you do give him the eyes at one point. Or just Misa is with him.
Or he might have eyes the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about like, I sacrificed my life to get this. It's just an extra power.
Power that comes with it.
So it's like, how do I stop the person who needs to know my name and face, but has been with me the entire time, who's known all along? This has just been some sort of like, or maybe there is some sort of limit to his power or whatever it is. Like,
maybe he has to actually be looking at them at the moment, not just picturing in their head. It's like, I can think of Elon Musk, but unless I'm looking at Elon Musk, it doesn't.
Yeah, you could change the wording of the rules however you want, or delete rules or come up with new rules, because this is a totally different, like, this is Death Note, but a completely different take with a completely different, like, you don't even have to call these characters L. They can be like Mike for whatever, like, it doesn't matter. And I think you also explore the morality of it all. It's just like, working with, they were like, the police chief in that one episode was like, oh, we're gonna work with criminals, this hacker and this con man. It's like, well, sometimes you need monsters to hunt monsters. It's like, you talk about that morality of it all. It's like, you have the main character struggle with their mental health, and like, maybe this case is driving them crazy. Like, what if I meet this person, am I going to arrest him or am I going to kill him because he's a mass murderer? Like, if anyone deserves death, it's probably this guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's just killing bad guys, and maybe he doesn't kill me. Like, I'm hunting him, but maybe I'm not really a threat to him, or maybe just like he'll never kill me because I'm quote unquote a good guy, or maybe he starts killing cops who are the good guys, but maybe they were corrupt cops all along. It's just, you just make it a whole morality story that Death Note didn't really dive into.
Yeah, and I think making who Kira is the mystery is an interesting take, where I don't want to compare it to like Scary Movie, but where Doofus ends up being the killer. If he is just another person on the team and it's not the obvious, oh, look at the chief's son who's a super genius join the, I mean, you could do that and have it be just a red herring. And make it be like the clumsy rookie who, keeps messing up the donut order, and he's just, the doofus in disguise. I think that's an interesting take, instead of knowing your 2 protagonists and antagonists just constantly going at each other. You take it from the detective side and make it more of a mystery. Have us figuring out things as he's figuring it out, instead of just knowing everything right from the get-go. There's a lot of different ways you could take this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could get in a writer's room and have a bunch of people pitch you different ideas, because maybe like, oh, the first season all is from the detective's perspective, and at the end of the first season you do see the face of the killer, and it's like, okay, well, season 2, it's all from his perspective, and then season 3 is like them, like you're going back and forth. It's like them, you get into the cat and mouse stuff, and it's like, who's actually smarter and who's going to win. And then
something from season 1 that was like, how did they get out of this situation? Or how did they get caught? And then you see it in season 2, and that would make for rewatching to be a lot more fun.
Yeah. Or then maybe at the end of season 3, they catch Kira, or Kira like writes his own name in the book. He kills himself. It's like, okay, we got him. But then that's when Misa steps up, and then like you do the Saul thing. It's like, well, now my vision has spread out into the world. The followers of Kira know what to do now. It's like, so even after I die, I still live on because I am a god of this world. And like, now they have to deal with, oh shit, we caught the guy, but now we got to deal with the cult of Kira.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of our pitches just end up being cult stuff.
Yeah. But like, he could do a thing where like, he tells Misa, write my name in the book and say I die in 40 years from a lightning strike. So then, does that make him invincible until then? So they shoot at him, but every bullet misses, because in the book it's already in stone.
That's a fun concept.
That this has to happen this way, and unless you rip that page out and burn it, you can't re-put him back in a book. So then it's like, wow, is he really a god? And like, no, I'm just planning ahead.
Yeah,
something.
You could do. Hey, there's a ton of fun, cool stuff. And I had another idea, and you cut me off, and that's fine. No. We can edit it around this.
Cult of Kira, reveal himself.
It doesn't matter. The point is, like, there's a phenomenal show here. And I think that a show that could be far better than Death Note. Problem is, you'd have to call it Death Note,
Yeah.
and it couldn't only be compared and alluded to
Sure.
the actual anime Death Note.
Yeah.
Because
I think
you
there's
can't do the story again and it not be just that.
Yeah, and I don't want the same story again. This story can be a comedy, like having, a bunch of doofuses get this death note and just like killing people in silly fun ways because they find it fucking hilarious. And maybe they're catching things on camera so they can sell the tapes to TMZ or whatever. Like there's a lot of ways you can take, like, just give the death note to anybody in the world. Well, what would Tom Cruise do with a death note? I'm not saying make a show about that, but you take that type of person, a super celebrity who is already part of a kind of a niche religion. What is that person? What does the Pope do with it? What does the President of the United States? It takes the story in many, many different directions, just depending on who you give it to.
Oh yeah, like that'd be a cool concept. Is like you finally catch the killer, and he had like your detective opens up the book, and there's just one little sliver of paper in there, and it just has like the killer. So like the killer kills himself. It's like, well, where are the rest of the pages? And then you just see pages in all these different like. He like sent them out to a bunch of random people. Like that was his last thing. He's just like he tore out all the pages and gave them to
put
like,
them in random books or
it's like now go catch 200 Kiras because they're out there now. And so then it's like, oh shit, how do we wrangle up all the like? That's a cool concept too.
Yeah, you would make an announcement to the world like, this is how it works, and then you start dropping the papers from an airplane. And so whether you touch it or not, like you touch it. All these people are going to touch it, and they're all going to be able to see the Shinigami. How does that affect the world? How does it change things when some people can?
On this pitch, I'm still saying you don't see a Shinigami.
There is no Shinigami. That's right.
It's just you touch it, and then, or not even you touch it and anything happens. Or maybe you touch it and you get the eyes. You could avoid the eyes entirely. It could just be you just write the name, and you have to think about that person.
You can start doing lotteries of like, I am your god. Who do you want me to kill? And so people are sending in fan mail, and there's a lot you could do here.
Yeah.
One I forgot to bring it up. I want to talk about the music, the intro music.
Okay.
Another thing of why I don't like anime is they all have terrible intros. Every single one, every song is bad. They're way too edgy or way too like tonally different than what the show is. It'll have like almost like a sweet romantic theme, even though it's kind of like a hardcore show. And a little more than halfway through, they do switch the theme song. I don't know if you paid attention because I skipped like as quick as I can.
I pretty much always skipped.
But
I mean, I know there was a change halfway through,
and it's much better. It's a little repetitive at times, but it's a much better intro. But God, I hate anime intros. I don't think there's one that I've ever watched more times than the one initial time. And especially the outro music is always worse than the intro. I have to skip it. It's god awful. And I don't know why all animes have to do it. They all have really weird music. Don't get it.
Yeah, I remember it's like there was a time in the 80s and 90s where it's just like you always had a theme song to like a sitcom intro. It's just like, your Fresh Prince, or it's just like or the Three's Company too. It's just like there was always some sort of like tune or whatever. And then like we totally got rid of that's pretty much almost gone, but like where it stayed around is like every anime as a rule has to have an intro song and an outro song, and then that changes season to season, almost across the board.
But do they have to be so long? Does it have to be a minute and a half? Does it have to be a full real song for an intro? Can it not be 20 seconds and just bing, bang, boom, let's get into it? It's got to be the most rocking thing with as many flashing lights and colors as possible.
My guess is that's part of like we need to make 100 episodes, so we need to pad. So
did you almost skip that recap episode? It was like, right getting close to Elle's death.
That episode tripped me up because it started. I was like, wait, did I watch that? It's like I
why
didn't.
Why are you recapping episode 1 shit?
I didn't realize what it was doing, and then it was like, what the fuck? And so like I stopped it like 3 minutes in or something like that, maybe 5, and I was like, well, let me look this episode up. It's like, okay. So I looked it up. It's like, oh, so there is new stuff. You just have to get halfway through the episode. So
it's like the lowest rated one on IMDb. And I was like, I'm going to skip this, but I didn't. and I'm glad I did.
I get why shows do that and they exist. It's just like, okay, so this is where season 2 starts, so we need to recap for the.
Yeah.
I get it. But I think if I was a showrunner, I would never, ever, especially nowadays, ever do a recap episode.
Nope.
Unless it's like a Kevin Smith Clerks anime thing where like you're doing a recap episode of things that like never actually happened.
Sure. Or you do a recap of things that happened 5 minutes ago. That's like a funny bit. Yeah. But doing a let's catch everybody up,
because every time I've like seen a show with like a recap episode or just like, oh well, we need a filler episode or there's a budgeting reasons we need to like have this episode that recaps stuff, whatever it is. It's like it's almost always the lowest rated episode of every show because no one gives a fuck about recap episodes.
We're watching it.
We've seen it.
And I hate it. I remember watching a Blade 2 and just being super excited for it. And it starts off with, like, ooh, I'm Blade and Whistler died and I'm going to go get revenge. And I just sat there thinking, like, fuck you. If you didn't watch part 1, you're shit out of luck. Figure it out as the movie goes along. Why do we need to recap for people who are just casually watching? And
gotta hit all them demos, man.
And and I get it. I absolutely get it. But in the timeline of movies itself, 20 years later, people, they watch Blade 2 whether they want or not. Like, I get doing it in theaters, but now this movie lives forever with this recap before it that I think if anybody is watching Blade 2, they either already watched it or they're going through the series. And so you don't need to do it for either one. No one's turning on Blade 2 and never seeing it. I could buy people going to the movies and just going, fuck it, let's just go see Blade 2, whatever. But for movies to last the test of time, you don't need to do that. And I think it's just undermining for that opening weekend money, and that's it. And so I hate recaps. It's helpful for some shows, but I hate it when, I'll take Lost for example. It'll be season 4, and then they flash back to something in season 1. And it's like previously on Lost. And it's like, oh yeah, that thing that happened in season 1. Yeah, we're going to get back to it eventually. So it kind of ruins that episode. And like, oh, they showed the polar bear scene. Okay, we're going to answer the polar bear question now. Yeah. And so I don't like it. Pay attention and follow or don't watch it.
I mean, I get like, I'm sure there's plenty of times where most people, myself included, but casual fans of it's like they could have seen it the week before and completely like it's wiped from their brain because it's like, yeah, I've seen the first one, but it's like you jump into the second one and then there's a character. It's like, wait, were they in the first one? Maybe I went to the bathroom and that's like I get. Sure. Sometimes you're just gonna lose that. Yeah. But they're either you should still get rid of the recap because either, like you said, A, the people probably aren't jumping in to see this, and 2, like if they are jumping in, that's their fault.
That's their problem.
But then 2. If you're doing the recap to make your job as a storyteller easier, well, then you're admitting you're not a good storyteller because you should be able to tell a full story without having to go back and say, remember all this stuff?
It's the hand-holding.
Yeah, you're hand-holding your audience. You're saying they're dumb. And you know what? They might be. Yeah. But I think there's a chance you're just a bad storyteller because you feel like you need to explain this stuff in order to complete the story. Where it's like, well, you explained the first one. And if this is the second one, they should have fucking solved the first one. And if they hadn't, then it's their fault if they're confused.
That's on them.
So
fuck them.
Yeah.
Whew. So I recommend you watch the Netflix one. If you're ever curious, it's not a bad movie.
You're making me watch Andor, and that's 12 hours of my life, roughly.
A little less, but it's worth it. So I would like to shoot for next week to talk about Andor. I know,
I'll do my best.
That's a big ask, but you're done with your game. You could put in like 2 episodes a night and knock it out.
I'll watch half an episode on my way to work, on the way back.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what else. I think next week is what comes out.
I know there's some stuff coming out that I'm like, oh, gotta see that.
Oh no, Fablemans was this weekend.
But Fablemans is only playing at cut that.
I'll bleep it. Don't worry. Now people are looking. Where was
Where are these fuckers?
Yeah, what is out next weekend? Because I think Avatar is 2 to 3 weeks from now.
I think it's like the last week of December, my man.
I think it's a midweek, mid month.
Oh, really?
Movie. Yeah.
So I'd see Bones and all.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
That's this. This is from today. I still want to see the Banshees of
Yeah.
Inisherin. But that only plays one showing a day, I think. It
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. So that's gonna be gone soon. But that'll be on a
So
streaming soon.
Friday the 2nd, we have what the fuck? The quintessential quintuplets. What the fuck? Oh, Violent Night.
Oh, that's next week. Okay, that's it.
December. Oh yeah, we gotta talk about that.
Yeah, I'm excited because it looks like fun, but I think the trailer just showed everything.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I'm not expecting to be surprised, but I'm just looking to have.
like we didn't need to see every death. We don't need to see how every henchman is gonna die. But yeah, I'm excited for that. So maybe Bones and All and Violent Night, or one. I don't care. I'm gonna try to see Bones and All tomorrow.
December 15th is Avatar, or the 16th.
16th.
Thursday's the 15th.
So right in the middle. So we got 3 weekends until that happens. So we good.
December's supposed to be like Oscars, or like November. December's supposed to be Oscar season. There's not like a ton
Yeah,
of
August is into summer, and then you get into the awards.
because like your December 23rd, like Christmas movie is I Want to Dance with Somebody. That's not gonna win any awards. The
No.
Whitney Houston movie,
Yeah.
and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
What?
Yeah, there's like dog
That's
shit coming out. In
well
May.
because it's like Avatar's
Or
coming
cat shit, I
out.
should say. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be hard to compete.
Huh.
Like Avatar's gonna make a ton of money because even in December, it's got nothing to compete
Yeah,
with.
but it doesn't have the 3D showings that the first one did. Like you had to see it in 3D
Sure.
for a lot of places, and that's how it made its money. And I guess there was a figure like Avatar 2 has to be like the third highest grossing film of all time to make any money. It's so expensive.
Jesus.
Yeah. Like 2.1 billion it has to make in order to do it. So
Yeah, but in that movie's defense, the first movie paid for. I didn't know this. I'm just talking.
oh yeah, that's true. But just in case.
Just in case. But in this movie's defense, that first movie paid for this fucking movie.
Sure.
Even if it made $0, they still fucking broke even,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Like, I don't know how that works. Even if it made $0, it still broke even. So the movie cost $0.
No. What I'm saying is, okay, the first movie cost, let's say, $200 million to make. It made $2 billion.
Yeah,
So then this movie, even if it cost $1 billion,
yeah. Sure.
they're still in the green.
Yeah. If this movie makes 0, they still are okay.
Yeah.
They blew that Avatar movie already. They bought the big fancy house, and then they bought a third car, and the fancy boat, and all the mountains of cocaine, and they're like, all right, Avatar 2.
Well, that movie was, what, 13 years ago? Or
Yeah.
11, whatever amount of time. So it's like, yeah, that movie funded other movies, or maybe James Cameron just sitting there blowing blue whales or whatever he does, doing cocaine's off their massive giant cocks. Who cares?
That's why he's funding all that underwater
My point
expedition
is, they have
stuff.
no complaints if this movie doesn't make.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like you made the money already.
And you had your chance to capitalize on this instantly, and you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. Well, we'll watch something. We'll talk about something. I'd like to talk about Andor. If you can't get it done, that's cool. We'll talk about stuff.
Well, at least I'll if I don't finish Andor, I'll at least try and squeeze in Bones and all.
Okay.
And because you said you're probably gonna watch it, right?
I'm probably gonna see it tomorrow. I got some stuff to do.
So worst case scenario, we'll talk about Bones and all.
And I'm gonna probably watch the Wednesday Netflix show. I know that's probably you don't give a shit.
Nope.
But it's Wednesday. I know it's not
I
Christina
know.
Ricci.
I know.
But freaking what's her name? Jenny Ortega? This chick's has had like an amazing career in the past like year. She was in Scream, she was in this, she was in X, and there was something else. And I think she's going to be in an Avengers movie, like in a Marvel thing. Like she's I don't want to say lucky because she's good at what she does, but she's having a stellar year. It's the year of Jenny Ortega. So congrats to her.
Who?
So I guess that's it. Yeah, I think we are pre-editing. We are over 3 hours. So
Yeah,
We talked about Death Note for like 2 hours.
I'm impressed because I was worried we weren't going to talk that much. So thank
Yeah.
you for your notes.
Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm here for.
So yeah, I'll get Fincher on the phone and
Yeah.
we'll get this project started because I
Sure.
think it's. I'm sure he's seen it. I
Yeah.
think it's right up his alley.
Slam dunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you have an anime for me to watch, something that's short, under 40 episodes is better. I'd say 20 or less, or an anime movie. A 2.5 hour movie is fine by me, but something that is just self contained and done. I don't need supplemental material. And you have suggestions, hit us up at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Hit us up on any one of those with questions, comments, or concerns. Once again, thank you. And as always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Good night. It makes me happy to not have sex with you,